Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen really can't stand the smell of barbecue. My Karen neighbor tells me that I'm not allowed to barbecue. I'm in my 30s and I recently bought my first house. I'm in the middle terrace in a quiet family area. I've always been interested in smoking and barbecuing, and now that I have my own place, I bought an American-style barbecue smoker. I've been watching shows and YouTube videos about it for years, and I've been really enjoying my new hobby. Over the last 4 months, I've used my barbecue for a long smoke, around 7 hours, 4 times. The garden is quite small, about 5 by 9 meters, and I usually have the barbecue quite close to the house. My plan for this weekend was to smoke a brisket. I went out to start the barbecue at 8 a.m. for a 10-hour smoke when my neighbor asked from over the fence how long I was planning on barbecuing for. They mentioned that they wanted to have their windows open, that they had just put some laundry out, and also that our other neighbors had complained about the smell. This is the first time I'm hearing of this. I asked if I could start later, and we agreed on 2 p.m. Around 2:15 p.m., I knocked on my neighbor's door to let them know I was going to start cooking, that I'd reduce the cook time to 4 hours, and that I'd move the barbecue to the back of the garden. Their response was to tell me that they had looked up the city council website that I was not allowed to barbecue for more than 4 hours. I just said okay, and I've now started my cook. I haven't been able to find anything to back up their claim that there's a council-enforced 4-hour limit per barbecue. I feel like I've done my due diligence by letting them know that I was starting and checking their laundry had been taken in. Am I the jerk for using my new barbecue? Don't apologize for cooking, especially barbecue. They can either join in and enjoy or buzz off. People that get angry over the smell of a neighbor's barbecue are control freaks that want everything their way. Don't let others' mental problems stop you from enjoying ribs. The Americans in here don't understand that most people in the UK hang their washing outside to dry rather than using a dryer. We also have windows open as we don't have air conditioning. If someone is smoking meats all day, that stops them from washing their clothes all day, which just isn't reasonable. If they were just having a barbecue in the evening, I'd be on their side. There may not be a law against it, but I'm sure there's not a law about playing Hanson on repeat all day either. It's about having respect for the people you live with, especially in a terraced housing where you are very close to your neighbors. You're the jerk. Smoking meats with neighbors that nearby? Really? Neighbor from heck. The smoke gets into everything and it lingers. I agree. You're not talking about grilling like it seems some here think. You're talking about running a smoker for 4 to 10 hours. This is completely inconsiderate. You're the jerk. There's nothing worse than hanging your washing out only for it to smell like your neighbor's smoke, let alone 8 hours of it. Smoke your meat when others aren't drying their washing. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their neighbors? Please let us know. Can we get some likes on this video, please, for the correct pronunciation of barbecue? Am I the jerk for telling my wife she's free to find a hotel room if she doesn't want my daughter here? My daughter Anna is 16 years old. She was an accident when I was 24. Anna's mother and I were never together as a couple. It was just a one-time thing, but we have maintained a friendly and healthy co-parenting since she was born, and we became good friends. My daughter has been living on another continent for a few years with her mother and stepfather, but she wants to come back because she doesn't feel comfortable there and she misses her family and friends. Anna doesn't know their language well, and it's still hard for her to learn it fully, so she feels really lonely there since it's different than speaking your native language, and making friends by speaking in a foreign language is hard. I spoke with my daughter's mother and we thought it was a good idea to let Anna live with me. Her room is now my home office, but I can easily put together a room for her again. We didn't confirm anything. I talked to my wife about it first, and I was sure that she was going to be okay with it because we literally talked about that possibility before. The problem is that my wife doesn't want that to happen. My wife and Anna have never been close because they only met in person for our wedding when I was able to pay a ticket for my daughter to come to it. That was the last time I saw my daughter in person too. Plane tickets are expensive. But they do tend to talk a little bit when I make video calls with Anna every day, but not too much. Anna also talks to her brother, and he likes her a lot, even if they just see each other through video calls. My wife says Anna is not going to feel comfortable in a house with strangers, and I told her that we are literally her family, and she said no. She and our toddler are not Anna's family because they barely know her in person. It honestly hurts me that she thinks that way, but I understand her point of view, although our toddler is Anna's brother, and it really annoyed me that she said that because our little one really loves his sister, even if they just see each other online. I had an argument with my wife about it, and I ended up telling her that my daughter will always come first of all because it's true. For me, my kids will always come before any other person, and she knew very well about my daughter when we got married. My wife got angry and said that bringing Anna home would change how we handle ourselves and that she doesn't want to be a stepmother. She said that Anna lived with her mother in another continent, so it's not the same as having her here every day. I told her that no one is asking her to be a stepmother because I'll be the one who takes care of her as always. My daughter used to stay many days and even months with me when I was the one who took care of her. I'm not going to give my wife all the work because I was a single father for a long time and I know how to take care of my daughter. I work, I clean, I cook. I take full care of our son when she works and wants to go out and do something, just like she does for me. We both support each other in raising our son. I don't know why many people are so shocked about the fact that I take responsibility of my own kid, but that if she doesn't respect my daughter's presence in the house and hates it that much, then she has all the freedom to go get a hotel room. I was a big idiot because those words obviously ended up really bad and we had a worse argument. My daughter has every right to live in my house if she wants to, but my wife doesn't want that. I really love my wife, but my biggest focus is to give the best to my kids, and I would love to have my princess here after years. My wife hasn't been talking to me at all and she's very angry, but she does continue with the same stance that she doesn't want Anna here at all. And I know I'll get angry and we'll end up arguing again because I'm not going to leave my daughter alone either. Edit. My wife always knew that Anna lived with me several days a week when she was still in the country because I talked to her about the possibility of Anna's family returning to the country if things went wrong. That would have meant that Anna would come back to live with me for many days or even months like she always did. My daughter used to come to my house every day too. My wife agreed with that years ago when we talked about that, but now admits that she thought my daughter was going to stay out of the country with her mother because their business is going very well. If she doesn't change her mind, do you see your marriage lasting? OP. To be honest, no, not at all. Even if I love my wife, my daughter no longer feels welcome in her school or comfortable. I don't want her to feel that way here too. What are you going to do about your son? OP. My son would never be homeless. Being okay with my wife would be the ideal plan, but if she continues to reject my daughter's presence and we break up, I'm going to make sure I pay her and our son a good place to stay. And go for 50-50 custody like I had with Anna, or make some kind of cohabitation agreement. I'm going to do the same thing with my son that I did with my daughter, which was go see her every day and take care of her. I wouldn't fight with my wife or stress out our son with grown-up stuff. Like I said, my biggest focus is that my kids are all well and don't suffer from the decisions of adults. But again, the ideal would be for everything to end well and for everyone to be happy. Not picking sides here, but if your wife leaves, so does your son. Everyone is screaming to put your kid first. You may have your daughter full-time and your son 50-50. Doubt they would take the toddler away from her since you say she's a wonderful mother. I think the rock in the hard place is a lot harder than you think. OP. Yes, I've been thinking about that too. Co-parenting with Anna's mother has always been really easy because we've always been good friends and there was never a fight. But I don't want to think that if I divorce my wife or we break up because of this, I'll have a harder time seeing my son or how the co-parenting would be with her. Unless there's something you aren't disclosing about Anna, your wife is of questionable character for not allowing your daughter to live with the family. She's part of the family whether your wife wants her to be or not. OP. I can swear there's nothing I'm hiding about her. She's good and has never had any problems with anyone. Even at the wedding, Anna and my wife got along well. She was a kid raised well by me as well as by her mother and stepfather. Update. First of all, I want to clarify that I'm from a third world country. It's really expensive to get a plane ticket, and if I travel, I must do it with my wife and our son too, so it's too much money that we can't pay. I let my daughter's mother take her to another country because, like every father, I want her to have better life opportunities. I don't think that makes me a bad father, but I guess the minds that have always lived in privilege don't understand. The last time I could afford some tickets was for my daughter to come to the wedding. Not all of us have the privilege of paying for a plane flight. I've been thinking a lot, and in fact, I'm the jerk because of the way that I treated my wife. Even if most of the comments agreed with me, I don't think it was right to say that to the woman I love, even though I was angry. I apologized to her for what I said and the way I said it, but I told her that I don't like it when she ignores me and gives me the cold shoulder when I try to talk to her about issues, and the fact that she denied the familiarity between our son and our daughter was just cruel. She apologized for it and said things she regrets. I made it clear to her that Anna is coming here because no one can forbid any of my kids to live with me. Not only morally, but legally, I'm totally obligated to give my daughter and son a house. She tried to argue, but I asked her how she would feel if we divorced and my new girlfriend refuses to let our son live with me just because she didn't sign up for it. My wife said no, that obviously she knows how much I care about our kids, that she knew she wanted to have a kid with me because she saw how, even though my daughter was so far away, I still made video calls to her every day, and we always help each other with things around the house. Then I asked her why she rejects the idea of my daughter being here, and she admitted to being jealous of my daughter. It's something that I've noticed in the past. For example, for one of my daughter's birthdays, I sent money to her mother to buy her a dress that was quite expensive, and my wife just said, "I guess you will buy our son something just as expensive." It was my mistake to let those comments pass and think it was just a joke. She said that she doesn't want my daughter to come and take time away from our son. That bothered me, and I told her that if we had 2 kids, my time would also be divided, and that as a father, I can give the same attention to both. Changing our routine doesn't have to be a negative thing, and she knows that Anna is not a problem teenager. We talked a lot, and I explained to her that I just want to make everything work for both of us. I apologized if I made her feel bad with the way I treated her, and I told her that I want to really hear what things are bothering her so we can understand each other better. We agreed to have better dialogue and communication about these kinds of things. My wife admitted that her jealousy is wrong and she feels embarrassed about it, but it's how she feels, and she feels awful for feeling that way. I told her that feeling isn't right. Being jealous of my daughter isn't right, and I told her that it would be okay to start going to the psychologist if we want to fix this, because I'm not going to leave my daughter living in a place where she doesn't feel loved. My wife accepted after talking about it a lot these past days, and she wants to work on herself about that. I still haven't confirmed anything to Anna's mother about the date on which our daughter can come live here, but we're going to work it all out. I suppose a lot of people are going to call me an idiot for not divorcing my wife because that was what most of the comments told me to do. But it's not all that simple as, yeah, we argued, so let's get divorced and have 50-50 custody. And I personally think we're going to be a lot better off now that we're talking to each other about this. I'm not going to force them to be best friends. I just want them both to flow on their own. I'm also not going to use my daughter as a free babysitter, as many of the commenters thought I would. And both she and her brother can live in this house as long as they want to. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that she's making her fiancé miserable? I, 21 female, recently got into a pretty heated argument with my friend, 22 female, regarding her engagement to her fiancé, who's 30. For some background info, me and my friend, Carrie, have been on and off friends since middle school, but over the last 3 years, we've become really close, and I would consider her a best friend. I love her, but she's definitely one to be dramatic and overreactive. I've always thought that, but it's been overwhelmingly hard to handle for the past year. About a year into her relationship with her fiancé, Sean, she started to obsess over the idea of getting engaged. She would constantly ask friends and family if Sean had mentioned wanting to propose, would go through his bags during every trip they took to see if he had a ring hidden somewhere, and would sob to Sean and anyone who would listen after any major holiday or event, wondering why he didn't propose, because it was the perfect opportunity. During a night out with Sean, Carrie, and one of his friends, Carrie texted me begging for me to talk to Sean privately about when he was going to propose. Knowing she wouldn't drop it, I texted Sean and said at some point that night I would need to talk to him. Eventually, I got him alone and explained that he didn't need to tell me anything, but that Carrie wanted me to ask about thoughts on engagement. He told me that he's gotten to the point where he is going to propose to make her happy and that it would be about 2 months from when our conversation took place. Now they're engaged, but the issues have not gone away. Now Carrie is obsessed with wedding planning, and Sean has shared with me that he feels overwhelmed by her, even more so now. Sean isn't allowed to go out for drinks once a week after work or play video games like he usually does because of the wedding. Yesterday, I was over at their shared place because Sean was golfing and Carrie didn't want to be alone. At one point, she looked at his location, then pulled up a map of the golf course online and asked me to help her figure out which hole he was on. I told her it looked like he was on hole 8, which upset her because he had already been golfing for a while and she assumed he would be close to done. She proceeded to call him 32 times in a row until he answered, and then sobbed when he picked up and told him he needed to come home now because he had been out for too long. After their argument over the phone, I couldn't stop myself from the comment I made, which was, "Don't you think you're making Sean a little miserable?" This obviously didn't go over well. She sobbed and yelled at me, saying I just didn't understand how much she loves him. I left, and we haven't talked in a couple of days. I regret what I said, but I don't necessarily think I'm wrong. My overall concern is that I have definitely become too involved in their relationship. I have definitely become the middleman. So, am I the jerk for telling my friend that she's making her fiancé miserable? Your friend is engaging in controlling and emotionally manipulative behavior in an attempt to force her fiancé into a predetermined set of actions. She doesn't love him. At most, she loves some idealized version of him. Not the jerk. You have every right to say something. This kind of thing is the business of anyone who recognizes it. Perhaps Carrie might benefit from counseling, perhaps not, but your primary obligation is to help Sean, the one being victimized. My wife left me after she got in shape, and now she wants to get back together. Plus final update. I, 32 male, was married to my wife, 33 female, for 4 years, and we had a great marriage so far. I was madly in love with her. She fell into depression mainly due to her job in 2022. I tried to support her in every way and suggested her going to the gym or doing any kind of sports to de-stress. I had my own depression episode after we got married, and what saved me was going to the gym. She agreed to that and we started going together. I could not go as frequent as in the past because my workload got heavier after my promotion. However, I tried my best to be there with her. She used to be a bit bigger, which I always loved, and after seeing some changes with herself, she started to go regularly. It always helped her with depression and she got better. I was really happy to see that she got better and livelier. She looked more confident, got more aggressive, and so on. However, after a while, that confidence level started to affect our relationship for the worse. She started going to the parties and going outside to a point she completely stopped doing her share of the housework. That proceeded with me seeing her getting flirty with a guy at a meetup that we went to. I communicated my feelings to her and she dismissed these. After several of these, I had her sit down with me and I told her that she's riding high on her newly found confidence and emotions right now. I clearly stated that she should not make any decisions or actions according to that confidence right now. I know it well. It was one of my worst traits. I used to be extremely emotionally driven in the past. I suggested we go to a marriage counselor and all heck broke loose. She said horrible things to me, like how she realized she settled down with me after getting better and she could do much better than me. She said I'm insecure and other things. This woman used to be the sweetest person in the world, and I was shocked after hearing her say that to me. She filed for divorce the following month, and I didn't hear much from her other than some lawyer talk. Our court seeing is scheduled to be next month, and my lawyer told me there's a high chance it'll be concluded then. There's not much to share. Similar income, only shared asset is our joint account, similar savings and no kids. House is my mom's, so it's out of the division. I accepted my marriage is going to end like that. Last week, she called crying and told me she regrets everything. She apologized over and over again, but I felt disappointed. Not angry, not sad, just disappointed. She didn't text me or call me even once since the divorce started. I did not even know where she was since she just left the home. I told her there is no going back now. She's been messaging me non-stop. My family supports my decision and they tell me I shouldn't back down. My in-laws were shocked when they heard about the divorce. They're now telling me to rethink everything. I will 99.9% not back down, but as I said, I'm just looking for validation and maybe wanted to vent. Was there another reason she left you after she got healthy? OP. I did not even understand why she left me after getting in shape. I'm in shape too. It's not like I wasn't. It had been a while since going to the gym before we started going together, but I wasn't in bad shape at all. I could probably get back to my shredded shape with 1 year of workouts. How long were you separated? Did she tell you why she made the mistake? OP. About 5 months. She did not specify. I'm not sure what happened that made her call me crying. Update. We are officially divorced. There was not much to share, so it went smooth as butter according to my lawyer. I've never talked to her other than through lawyers as much as she wanted me to. She tried to talk to me one-on-one and get closure, but I just do not want that. It's not that I don't care why she left me, what she did during that time. I just don't want to know. I've been living without her for months now. At first it was difficult and I cried all night some days, but after a few months, I feel like I came to accept everything. What peace will it give to learn what and why when I already accept everything other than hurting me? For once, I want to prioritize my peace of mind in this whole process. My parents and friends are here to support me, and I'm glad that I have such a great support circle. As for what my plans are, renovate my office room in the house, get back to the gym, and live my best life. I've been wanting to renovate my office room for a while now, and that's what I'll start with. I started hitting the gym at the same time. I believe my body is good, but I have some extra fat to lose. Dieting proved itself difficult because I love tiramisu. For the dating part, I got on a few apps. I have decent numbers of matches, but I realized I don't feel like doing it right now. I'll focus on my own hobbies, well-being, and wants for now. Thank you for all the support and the help in the post. I'm really sorry you had to go through this awful experience. I agree with you that closure is just for her, as you shed all the tears and pain you needed to. All the best for you. Keep looking after yourself, and I'm proud of how you've handled yourself during this difficult time. OP. I think I gave myself my own closure, and the conclusion is having my best life and moving on. That's the best thing I can do. When the person who chooses to leave wants closure, just shut the door and keep it shut. They only want to make themselves feel better about their decision, no matter how bad they did you over. Karen calls the HOA on me because I'm too sick to mow my grass, so I built a new 8-foot fence. So the call about the long grass was kind of the last straw. The backstory is this. My grandpa passed 2 years ago and I moved into his house. He was pretty healthy, but he let the yard go down a bit. The grass was maintained, but the trees were overgrown. His pond and patio were dirty, etc. Our neighbor, years ago, sold their yard to a property builder. Our properties are in an L shape, so our neighbor was using our backyard as her virtual backyard. For the past 2 years, I've been trying my best to maintain the backyard while also working and dealing with my grandpa's stuff. Well, for the past few weeks, the backyard has fallen a bit as stress from work has creeped in and I was sick for a few weeks. Before this, the neighbor was always nitpicking things, but I mostly just ignored them until they rang my door one day to complain about mess in the backyard, and I told them, I have a life outside of this house. If it bugs you that much, you're more than welcome to do the work yourself. Following that, the bylaws came by, and they were very understanding about my situation and gave me more than enough time to feel better and mow the lawn. Well, that whole thing really upset me, and I had wanted to get the typical white picket fence as there wasn't a fence, and we were passively looking for a dog. So I decided forget it. I built the largest fence I could, and since her house was right on the property line, she now looks out the window, and instead of seeing my backyard, she just sees a big wooden fence. There's 2 types of neighbors. Ones that look and say, oh man, the neighbor is usually pretty good about mowing. I wonder if their mower broke or they're sick or something. I'll go check, and if they need to borrow my mower, or if they need me to mow for them this time, well, that's what neighbors are for. The other type goes, oh man, that looks like crap. I don't give a hoot if they're getting chemo treatment. I'm gonna call the city on them. My Karen sister complained about my neighbors, so I kicked her out. I, 31, male, have lived at the same home for 2 years, and I'm very friendly with my neighbors. They're nice people, married couple in their late 40s with a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. Every weekend since I've lived there, they like to have a small get-together with their family. Not a big party, but they do grill out on their porch, play music, and chat. It's never more than 10 people. Honestly, it's never bothered me. Music is always off by 10 p.m. and they don't get rowdy. My family isn't close like that, so it actually feels nice they do it every weekend, and sometimes they've invited me over for a burger. Like I say, nice people. My sister, 27, female, is having problems with her boyfriend, and she doesn't want to stay at their place right now, so here she is. The past month, she complained about my neighbors and how annoying they are. She doesn't know how I stand it, and I should tell them something. But I've literally got no problem with it, and I told her that they're not doing anything wrong. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was approached by the husband, and he apologized for being so rude. Had no idea what he was talking about. He said my wife complained to him about their loud music the other weekend, and me and her both have gotten extremely annoyed by it. She threatened to call the police if they kept this up because they are disturbing the peace. I was pretty red from both anger and embarrassment, so I explained to him that I have no problems with that and she's my sister, not my wife. Apparently, she said that so they'd take her more seriously as the owner of the house. My sister refused to apologize and said she absolutely would call the police because they need to learn not to be annoying with their music. So that's when I told her to look somewhere else to stay if she's going to cause problems with my neighbors. Right now, she's couch surfing between friends, and my family is upset that I was willing to kick her out of my home over issues with my neighbors. My parents are far, so of course they can't take her in, and because I'm the only person close to her, they feel like I'm not being a very good brother for caring more about this than my sister having somewhere to stay. I feel like I'm in a way justified and not wanting her to create problems between our houses, but at the same time, yeah, she doesn't have a place to stay right now. So, am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his sister? Please let us know. She shouldn't have gone behind his back and lied like that. Don't go to an emergency room when it isn't an emergency. I'm an ultrasound technologist and used to work for a freestanding emergency room. I worked 40 hours during the day, Monday through Thursday, and was on call every night from the time I got off work until I went back in the morning. So basically, even if I've already worked 10 plus hours that day and get off at 8 p.m., if a patient comes in at 2 a.m. and needs an ultrasound, I had to get out of bed, get dressed, drive to work, do the exam, drive home, and hope to get some sleep before clocking back in a few hours later. Most of the time, I'm okay with this. You don't show up at the emergency room in the middle of the night unless you really need help. Mostly. Another important fact is in my state, it is illegal to discuss anything about the findings of the exam with the patient. I can't show them pictures. I can't tell them if I think they have gallstones, etc. I could lose my job and license to practice if I do. I take the pictures, send them to a radiologist, and he makes the report for the ER doctor and the patient. Also, remember, this is an emergency room. This is not a doctor's office or one of those places you can get a fun 3D ultrasound done when you're pregnant. This is not a happy, fun place. So one night I was called in around 1 a.m. after already having worked a 12-hour shift. The previous night I had been called out multiple times, so I was operating on about 4 hours of sleep for the past 2 days. So I get to work and the ordering doctor tells me the patient is pregnant and complaining of severe left-sided pain. So I need to do an OB ultrasound to make sure baby is okay and there isn't anything life-threatening going on. Okay, no problem. So I bring the patient into my room and ask her where she's hurting so she can point to the exact spot so I know where to focus and double-check everything. The patient points to her right side and just casually says, "Over here somewhere." Because I'm too sleep-deprived, I assumed maybe I was confused and forgot which side the doctor told me was concerning. Me: "I'm sorry, I thought the doctor said it was your left side that was bothering you." Patient: "Oh yeah, my left side, that's it." Me: "So, where does it hurt?" "Can I be honest?" "Of course, please tell me what's going on." "So, I'm not really hurting, but I don't have an ultrasound scheduled for this baby until Tuesday. And tonight I was looking online for nursery decorations and I found this gorgeous bed set on sale. But the sale ends at 7 a.m. and I don't know if I should order blue or pink because I don't know if I'm having a boy or a girl." Me: "So you have absolutely no medical concerns whatsoever?" Now the patient sees she's made a mistake and starts backtracking. "Oh, I mean, plus, my side hurts." Me: "Right, okay." So I just go ahead and start the exam. I take all of the important measurements, make sure the baby's heart looks good, etc. Patient: I can't see the screen." Me: "That's because I can't show you anything or discuss this exam at all. The radiologist will make a report for the ER and they'll let you know what the radiologist says." "Oh, so the ER doctor will tell me if I'm having a boy or a girl?" Me: "No, that's not medically relevant. This exam is to make sure the baby is safe and healthy." "But I have to know what I'm having. I have to know before 7 a.m. Me: "Sorry, that isn't part of the exam. I don't even look to see if it's a boy or a girl. Here in the emergency room, we are responsible for making sure there aren't any life-threatening issues happening. Whether she's having a boy or a girl is in no way relevant." Patient: "But you can just take a peek, right?" Me: "No, I really can't. And even if I saw anything, it would not go in the report as it's not medically relevant." "I don't need it in the report. You can just tell me." "No, I can't. I'm not allowed to discuss anything about the results of this exam. I just take the pictures." But I came here because I need to know my baby's gender." Me: "You said you came here because you were having severe pain." "Well, yes, of course. But still, can't you just give me a hint?" Remember, this is almost 2 a.m. I'm tired. I'm trying very hard to keep a smile on my face, and this woman had me miss precious hours of sleep because she didn't want to miss out on a sale for crib sheets. Me: "Ma'am, I cannot tell you anything about your exam. I can't tell you if the baby's a boy or a girl. I can't tell you anything." "Please, just tell me what color bed set I should order." "I'm an ultrasound technologist, not an interior decorator. I can't tell you anything." "Okay, how about this? If I were you and you were shopping for bedding, what color would you order?" Me: "Probably purple. It's my favorite color." "No, I mean, if you were me and had to choose between blue and pink, What color would you choose? Me. So, you want me to tell you what color bed set I would order between blue and pink? Yes, just tell me. Blue or pink? Okay, and we're strictly talking about just bedding, right? Patient, thinking we have come upon an unspoken agreement. Yes, just talking about bedding. Me. If I could only choose between pink and blue, I would for sure order blue. The patient immediately pulls out her phone while I'm still trying to do her ultrasound and orders the blue crib set. For your information, she was having a girl. She asked me what color bedding I would choose, and I hate pink, so I was completely honest. Donating to an animal shelter does not make my dog adoptable. So this happened to me a few months ago. Just posting now because quite frankly, I've finally dealt with the circumstances. My older dog had to be put down, which sucked, yeah, but I didn't feel right just throwing his stuff out. Things like his harness, leash travel kennel, etc. So I cleaned it all up and took it down to the local animal shelter. One of my younger dogs is in training to be an ESA for my wife. Had his work harness and clear signage that he was in training along with his name. He's also an alumni of this particular animal shelter, so I took him along while I was dropping my older dog's stuff off. Younger dog, being in ESA training, is very sociable and likes to say hi to everyone, especially the kids. He loves them and they love him. This particular kid, however, was probably too young to read the Ask to Pet badges on his harness, however. I doubt his mother was, though. Fred, my younger dog, will break the rules if it means he gets FaceTime with a kiddo. So I interrupt, make Fred sit, then release him to get loved on. While I was talking with one of the shelter workers about my older dog, Mother interrupts and asks for an adoption form. Okay, cool. That's what shelters are for. I did not immediately realize she was talking to me because of having my attention split between the shelter worker, my dog, and her kid. Shelter worker. Who did you pick? Entitled Mom. This one. Points at Fred. Think he's too old to change his name? The employee gives me a panicked look. Me. Ma'am, this is my dog. I only brought him along because we got him here about a year ago. Karen. Well, you brought him back. I want to adopt him. Worker. He's not surrendering his dog. He was bringing in some donations. Karen. Angry glare at both of us. You shouldn't have non-adoptable dogs in the shelter. Now this kid is crying because his mother assumed anything with 4 legs was fair game and told him they could take my dog home. She snaps. See what you did. I hope you're happy. Stomps out, darn near forgetting her own crying kid. Note, Fred is my first attempt at training an ESA, though I do have long experience with hunting and general obedience training, but I think I'm doing okay. This is the second time someone has gotten upset with me because I wouldn't let them adopt or buy Fred. Edit. Rather than reply to each individual comment, I'm just going to say, yes, I am well aware of the differences between a service animal and an emotional support animal. Fred is not trained, certified, or badged as a service animal when he's in his harness, nor do I attempt to pass him as one. I know the people that do a great disservice to those that actually need their service animals. He only goes to pet-friendly places with us. I've had long experience training and handling dogs with a number of jobs. Fred is simply to be a comforting companion. His work harness simply is to put him in a good manners mode because he's still very young and a pretty high energy / high intelligence dog. Left to his own devices, well, there's a reason I occasionally call him a dingo. Speaking of dogs, do you have a dog? And if so, what kind? Please let us know. Teacup poodles for the win. Shut my mouth? Fine, I'll sit back and watch you struggle. The school I currently work at went through an overhaul of assessment marking and submission policies. Important fact, all assessment marking was done by hand because we were still stuck in the dinosaur age. So the head teacher holds a meeting stating that all marking is to be changed to an online system where we would have to type a separate comment for each criteria for all assessment tasks rather than write an overall comment. You can imagine the uproar from all of the older teachers. They were super comfortable with writing, but can you imagine the 2-finger typing method they were used to? Not to mention finding the letters. I had already saw this change coming as all students went online due to lockdown, and it was me who implemented this change for my department. I had a light bulb moment when all that happened, So in my own time, I reworked every single assessment by reducing the amount of criteria by half of what we had, so we would have less lines to mark. More work for me, but less work for everyone else. But nah, being a team player is always good, right? I raised my hand in the meeting to tell them what had been done for us all. But me being the youngest teacher there, they told me to put my hand down, shut up, and sit in my spot while they moaned and groaned about the changes. Fine, so I sat there, waiting for my time to go home. Fast forward a week, when an assessment with 6 lines is released to be marked. It may not seem like much, but if I have 6 lines times around 50 words times 60 students, it all adds up. It took me about 5 days to completely finish all of the marking for my students in between all of the other teaching and social life activities I had. But not for the other teachers. All of them had to bring work home every night, and some were also coming in as early as 5 a.m. as they were falling behind so badly. Not to mention the teacher who accidentally forgot his wife's birthday as he sat at work marking, as she sat at the dinner table waiting for him, who never showed up until bedtime. The looks on their faces were priceless when I went home on time every day. Thank you, speech recognition. This lasted for about 3 weeks until all teachers finally finished their work. After all of the flames settled down, the head teacher calls me into her office and asks me how did I manage to complete my work so efficiently. So I pull out all of my assessment reworks and place it on her table. I told her, remember how you told me to put my hand down, shut up, and sit tight? I was trying to lighten our workload and help everyone out. Then I look up at her whiteboard in her office, and she had written up a plan which stated exactly what I had done for assessment reworking in my spare time to help. So I turned around and said, told you so. Then I walked out. Now I'm the leader of assessment design for my department at school, and everyone cannot thank me enough for giving back their free time every time an assessment comes around. I still haven't told anyone about speech recognition, but that's just my ace up my sleeve. Am I the jerk for telling my cousin to move out? I, 27 female, own my house. I also have a 9-month-old puppy and a 3-month-old puppy. The younger one is obviously not fully housebroken. My cousin, mom, and brother all live with me. I've been having a hard time with the fact I am the only one cleaning anything in the house, including the bathroom I don't use since I have my own in my room. Anyway, yesterday morning I woke up to a note from my cousin on the kitchen table saying the dogs are to be crated every time I leave the house and every time I go to sleep. My dogs free roam and I own the house. I'm not being told what to do with my dogs, and they also are in my room with me all night with the door closed. I also woke up to my dogs having busted open a bag of confectionery sugar all over the couch because my cousin forgot to close the pantry door. This was done when I was getting ready for work. This is a constant fight with him. I tell him to close the bathroom door constantly so the dogs don't get to the trash or toilet paper. Everyone else in the house can remember, but he can't. He was also mad the younger puppy had an accident in the house. When he woke up, I told him my dogs will not be crated. The younger puppy is 3 months old and not fully potty trained yet, and the accidents are becoming less frequent. I told him it was his fault he left the pantry door wide open, just like I have to clean up the mess in the bathroom every day when he doesn't close the door. I also told him not to be bringing any needles into my house, and my older puppy found one of them and I stopped her from chewing it, and thank God it was still capped and empty. I'm home all day with my dogs since I work from home, but it's a call center environment and I can't get up from my desk. I told him he's being careless and potentially causing my dogs harm. He didn't like that. We got into a big fight. I told him to leave. He said I was neglecting my dogs, which set me off because my dogs are my kids, and if he would just clean up after himself, it wouldn't be an issue. I told him before he complains about my dogs, he should learn to clean up after himself and stop leaving trash all over the kitchen for me to clean. He said he was moving out, so I said fine. You can leave now since you're being so careless with the measures I put in place so the dogs don't make a mess and get into stuff that can hurt them. He called the police. They said I have to evict him, but still asked him to leave. My mom said I could have handled it better, but I'm tired of being nice and asking politely when it obviously doesn't do anything. He was also mad I asked him to move his work equipment from my front patio for the millionth time because I said I don't want it there. It looks trashy. I'm just trying to keep my house inside and out clean and keep my dogs safe. Am I the jerk for telling him to just get out? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her cousin? Please let us know. Why are you letting this cousin live with you in the first place? Entitled mom yells at me because I won't change the price of a toy. So this happened a while ago, but it still makes me fume every time I think about it. So I'm a supervisor at a supermarket. One day a cashier calls for me to come and help with something. I get over there and it's a mom and her kid. The mom claims the toy she has in her hands was only $9. Now, we're supposed to be strict about this kind of stuff because most of the time an item has just been moved to the wrong place. Just so we're clear, we can't honor a price every time something is in the wrong place. It's a huge store, and we would be run out of business doing that. Anyway, back to the story. I go with the customer to the toy section so she can show me where she found it. I see that the toy was clearly in the wrong spot, and all 3 other toys like this are an aisle away, and they're ringing up $20. I tell the customer this, and then a crap storm occurs. We've got me, we've got entitled mom, and we've got her kid. Entitled mom. Okay, but I found it here, and you guys say you honor the prices. Me. Not if the item has been moved to another place. If all the other toys like this were in the spot, there might be an exception. But if you read the label here, it says something different than the toy you're talking about. That's not my problem. I found it here. My son really wants it, and you are going to deny it to him? I used to work here. I know how things work, and you have to give it to me for that price. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but there is too much of a difference for me to change the price of an item that was in the wrong spot. Her kid. At this point, he's not even caring about the toy. He's playing with a phone and seems perfectly content. Entitled mom. Are you kidding me? You're going to do that to my kid? He's so upset over this. He's throwing a fit. You tell him that you're the reason why he can't have a toy he wants so bad. Tell him. Her kid begins to get upset because she is baiting him. Me, trying to calm her down. Ma'am, entitled mom talking to her son. I'm sorry you can't have it. This woman over here won't let you have it. At this point, she's being so loud that my nearby coworkers have come over to see if everything is okay. I tell the customer I will get her a manager because I'm starting to get so angry that I'm shaking. The manager meets her up front where she continues to yell at him in front of all the cashiers and customers checking out. She's going on about how we are cheating her and that I handled the situation very poorly. Then she asks to speak to the store manager. When she is told that the store manager is unavailable, she calls our corporate number. Oh, and to make things worse, management let her have the toy. She was definitely one of the worst customers I've had to endure. Now, every time I see her, I shudder to think of having to help her again. By the way, it wasn't so bad after because all the cashiers were cracking up about the craziness of this lady, in turn making all the anger go away. And this mother met with the store manager, but everyone else vouched for me about how crazy this lady was, so I didn't get in any trouble. Do you think they should have lowered the price or kept it full price? Please let us know. That Karen needs to learn how to switch the price tags. Tell her to give me a call. I'll be glad to teach her. Am I the jerk for preventing my daughter from getting a new phone? Forgive me if I'm heated in this post, but this situation makes me extremely angry. A few months ago, my daughter smashed her iPhone for a social media post. In the post, she said, "It's okay, my parents will buy me a new one." The thing is, I definitely would have bought her a new one that same day and would have never known if it wasn't for the fact that her brother tipped me off and showed me the post. Her father and I were obviously extremely angry. We both came from rough childhoods and worked hard to build a good life for our kids. So to see her take advantage of that was extremely upsetting in a way I can't even describe. Her father and I are divorced, but we sat down and agreed that 1. We are cutting off her allowance, and her purchases now have to come through us. 2. We will never buy her a new phone, but we might consider a flip phone when she goes to college. 3. We will monitor her social media to make sure she's not participating in damaging content. 4. If she gets a job and wants a new phone, she first has to pay us back for the phone she destroyed. 5. We won't buy her a car when she turns 16. As I said, a few months have passed and I still feel the same way, but her dad has softened and he thinks her attitude has changed. He says that we might be too harsh over a teenager's mistake, and we should at least give her an allowance for chores and change "we're never buying you a phone ever" to "going a year without a phone." Personally, I don't care if all kids have one. She has an iPad with social media and a MacBook. She can still message her friends, but I refuse to get her another phone. If she wants one, she can get a part-time job and work for it so she can see how much work goes into getting a phone. But I don't see value in giving more money to a kid who doesn't know the value of money. I'd rather my daughter be unhappy for a few years over a phone than raise another spoiled and out-of-touch jerk for the world. Her dad respects my opinion and agreed he won't give her a phone or allowance. But now my daughter is angry at me and calling me a narcissist and controlling. However, my actions are a direct result of her misbehavior, and I'm not preventing her from getting a phone. She is free to work and buy one at any point. However, I think I might be the jerk because my daughter will be punished for years over one mistake. Am I the jerk here? Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you buy your kid a new phone or let them get a job and buy one themselves? Please let us know. Oh, give the kid a break. I did things like that all the time when I was a teenager, and look how I turned out. Fiancé left me due to my health condition. I left her destitute. We dated for 4 years and had what I thought was a great relationship. We were both well-established professionals who both owned homes in the same neighborhood and both with daughters in the home. Her daughter was 11 and mine was 16 when we met. We had actually planned to get married, build a house, and raise the two together. We planned the house build because she had recently been diagnosed with a neurological disease that would eventually put her in a wheelchair and need something ADA friendly. During the planning stages, I began doing landscape and construction projects on her home to increase the resale value. All in, I invested roughly $30,000 into the home, running everything through my side construction business for tax, permitting, and resale purposes. We had a contract that payment would be made upon the sale of the home. I produced invoices for each and every project, but never pushed for payment because of the prior agreement. Fast forward 6 months, we're looking at property to develop and finalizing drawings on the home when I began feeling ill. I couldn't eat, constantly vomiting and passing blood. I began noticing that my abdomen looked swollen, which was odd because we were both very clean eaters and were in the gym every day. So I went to the doctor and began having tests done. During this time, she began having small cognitive issues, and the stress of her current position was exacerbating her condition. So she took a $20,000 per annum cut in pay along with a lesser position inside the company. After a month or so of different tests and a biopsy, it came back that I had a golf ball-sized tumor in my stomach and would need to begin chemotherapy. So I began chemo and radiation treatments, which made me, expectedly so, extremely ill. She was spending time helping around my place on the weekends and staying over more, to the point that they were both at my home more than theirs. At this point, I suggested that we go ahead and put one of our houses on the market and move in together until the new house was built. I have great supplemental insurance as well as a long-term illness plan, so using that coupled with the sale of one of our houses would push us through comfortably and help ease the financial stress on her. Shortly after this discussion, she became extremely distant. Her daughter wasn't coming down and hanging out with mine anymore. She had excuses for not getting together. She quit driving me to treatments and stopped staying over. She then dropped a bomb, a sentence that will forever be burned into my psyche. I love you, but I can't see myself taking care of someone this sick in the long term, and I don't think we should see each other any longer. In a text. It broke me, I won't lie. This was the first woman I had ever opened up to and planned a life with since my wife died when my kids were 1 and 3. However, I tried to be mature about it. I forced myself to understand her position and to accept what I could not change. I calmly, the next day, gathered all of her things, packed them neatly, loaded them into my truck, and took them to her house to leave on the back porch while she was at work, in order to avoid any awkward exchanges. Walking around the back and under the porch cover, I sat down in a box and saw her in the back living room, on the couch, hooking up with a guy that she had introduced me to as a lifelong friend. I had dinner and drinks with this man and his girlfriend. We had gone on vacation with them as well. I never spoke on the incident with her and simply sent her a text later explaining that I would leave her things on my side porch to pick up at her convenience. I discovered 8 or 9 months later from his now ex-girlfriend that they had broken up due to him confessing that he had been hooking up with my significant other dating back to about the time we were finishing drawings on the new home. Now I'm mad. Revenge time. At this point, I had finished chemo and radiation for the time being and was feeling healthier. I was going through some much neglected paperwork, when I ran across the file that contained $32,000 in unpaid, long overdue invoices, which were promptly sent to my attorney to begin lien proceedings on the home. It turns out that I couldn't have done this a moment too soon because she was set to put her house on the market. Coupled with interest over the course of what was then 19 months overdue, the invoices were hefty. That, along with the agreement of settling them when the house was sold and attorney fees, left her with roughly $10,000 after the sale of the home and settling her current mortgage. She promptly had to back out of the purchase of another home and moved in with her oldest daughter, sister-in-law, and 2 grandkids. She also had to leave her home and begin receiving disability. I ran into her a little over a year ago, and she looked as if she had aged 20 years and was in the wheelchair we had talked about. We chatted cordially but briefly, and I excused myself and went on with my day. A few days later, her younger daughter called me and spoke of my running into her mom and could we hang out sometime. I gave her a vague answer, thanked her for calling, and again went on with my day. The ex then called me a week or so later and began apologizing for leaving me as she did. Again, cordial but short. I thanked her for calling and hung up. She began texting, and this went on for several weeks until she asked if I could ever see us rekindling what we had, to which I replied, "I can't see myself taking care of someone so sick in the long term. Remember the box on your back porch? Did you think that lifelong friend brought that over to you from my house? Good luck to you. Goodbye." I sometimes feel guilt over this, but not much and not often. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend to get a job or get out? I, 27, have been with my boyfriend, who's also 27, for 8 years, and we've been living together for 6. For college graduation, my dad gifted me a house, paid off as he is very well off. Since graduation, I've started my career and have become very successful and enjoy my work. My boyfriend has not. He did not complete college and has jumped between low-paying jobs for the last 6 to 7 years. This never bothered me. I make enough money to support us both. I pay our utilities and other fees with some help from him. Late last year, my boyfriend lost his job and was still looking for a new one when the lockdown hit. He now claims it is nearly impossible to get a job, which I understand, but have also had other friends in the same town manage to get jobs since the lockdown. All of this would be okay, except my dad lives in a city nearby and will often stop by, with warning. When he does, I do not mind him eating anything he wants out of the refrigerator or using my appliances. I figured he gave me a place to live payment-free, so it's only fair. I also do not care if my boyfriend eats whatever he wants either. Last week, my dad ate food that my boyfriend had purchased. This has happened in the past, but from my perspective, we live rent-free, so it shouldn't be a big deal. It is never special food, normally like regular chicken or something you can get at the market. My boyfriend is normally annoyed, but this time he went ballistic and took my dad's laptop charger out of his bag to get even. By the time my dad figured out his charger was missing, his computer was almost dead and he had an important virtual meeting. Thankfully, he had a spare, but I was livid. I told my boyfriend that he lives rent-free and that if he was going to act that insane about some food when he regularly eats what I buy and turn into a child, then I expected him to get a job and pay rent, or else get out. He chose to get out, but accused me of being a jerk and throwing him out on the street. However, he has a brother and a sister that live nearby, as well as his mother who regularly asks him to come stay with her, which he normally doesn't. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Karen roommate keeps eating my food. I, 18 female, live with a couple, 19 female and 20 male. They're mostly pleasant to be around, but they can't really understand boundaries too well sometimes. Every week, I do a food shop and prepare and freeze down my meals for the week to eat when I get home and while I'm at work because I can't just buy food due to a range of allergies and aversions. My weekly food works out pretty expensive, so I do make a point every week that I genuinely cannot afford for anyone to eat my food. I had to go away for a few days that turned into a week last week, and I figured it'd be fine since my food was frozen down so I didn't have to worry about missing a week's pay, as it was there already for me. I was actually really excited to eat them when I got home because they looked really good. Anyways, I got home this afternoon and went to go heat up my tonight's dinner around 2 hours ago, only to find every bit of it was gone, and the containers weren't even washed right. To say I was upset was an understatement. I'm hungry and annoyed and can't do another shop until Friday, and all I have is spinach and eggs until then. I called both of them into the kitchen and asked them what the heck was going on. She said they had friends over yesterday and that they were too lazy to cook or to order in food. I got really mad and I started shouting everything I listed above at them. They left the house and are staying at a friend's. My friend/neighbor, who had actually heard me shouting at them because our walls are thin, came over and said I'm being unreasonable and a jerk after hearing my side of the story because it's just food. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her roommates? Please let us know. There's only one way to deal with people like this, and it involves laxatives. Cheap customers expect 4-star service for a 1-star price. Case number 1. I will be me, and Mr. Executive from overseas will be executive. For the record, I work night audit. Phone rings at 3 a.m. Me. Hello, thank you for calling our hotel. This is OP. How can I help you? Executive. Hello, I just wanted to check on my reservation for today. I'll be coming in at around 11 a.m. Me. Okay, can you give me your confirmation number? He gives me his confirmation. I pull up the reservation. Top tier member. $139 a night for like 5 nights. Standard king, our cheapest and most basic room type. I confirm the details of his reservation with him. Executive. Okay, but they told me you would upgrade me to a suite. We have 2 suites in the hotel, and neither was available. Also, those start at about $500 per night. Me. Unfortunately, it looks like both of our suites are unavailable. I can upgrade you to one of our premier rooms for a little extra space, like 20 square feet, but it's our highest tier room that isn't a suite, if you'd like. Executive. What? I was told that I could upgrade to a suite if I called you this morning. Me. Unfortunately, as I said, we only have 2 suites and they are both unavailable. Executive. I don't understand. I need a room with a separate living room. I will be staying with you to conduct my business. I can't do that in a standard room. I need a suite. I was told I could upgrade. Me. I hear you, sir, but as I said, both of our suites are unavailable. If they were available, I would be happy to discuss upgrade options with you. But again, they are not available for your stay. Executive. But I was promised I could call you and get a suite. I don't understand. What can you do? Me. I can offer you a premier room if you'd like. Does it come with a separate living room or a parlor? Me. No, unfortunately, only our suites have a separate living room or a parlor. Why can't I have the suite? Me, wanting to bang my head against the desk because we're going in circles. I'm sorry, but this isn't available. Executive. What am I supposed to do? I need the suite for my business. Don't you understand? I understand perfectly, and I'm sorry, but it still isn't available. If you're traveling for business and need a suite, I recommend booking a suite instead of a standard room. That way you are guaranteed to have a suite that you booked. But as a top-tier sparkly member, I am guaranteed an upgrade, and I need one of your suites. Thank you for your brand loyalty, and you are guaranteed an upgrade if an upgrade is available. Unfortunately, the upgrade you want is not available at this time. This conversation continued to go around and around and around until I told him I would make a note that he was requesting a suite, but told him it was not guaranteed and was not currently available. He apparently made an ordeal of it with the GSA who worked the day shift as well as 2 managers. He never got a suite and left the next day to find other accommodations. Case number 2. Again, I will be me, and this time I'm dealing with drunk, jerky dude bros. I will refer to them as jerks. Only one of them actually spoke, but I'm lumping them together here. It's about 2:30 a.m. tonight. We currently have a policy where masks must be worn in all public areas at all times. Also, we do not allow drinking alcohol in the lobby, especially outside alcohol at any time. This is actually a law prohibited by the Liquor Control Commission, and we could be fined and held liable for it. Anyway, the jerk canoes come down off the elevator, a bit tipsy, no masks, beer in hand, and make themselves comfortable in my lobby. I wait for a moment to see if they're going to put their masks on, but they don't, so I decide to walk over and politely ask them to do so. Me. Hello, gentlemen. I'd just like to remind you that masks must be worn at all times when in the lobby, except when you are actively eating or drinking. I don't mention the alcohol at first because I pick my battles, and I'd rather they wear masks as it's a bit more of a direct public health and safety hazard. Also, I'm immunocompromised, and it's just me and them in the lobby. Jerks. Well, we are actively drinking. He motions to the beers and still does not put his mask on. Me. Well, about that. Unfortunately, outside alcohol is not allowed in our lobby, but honestly, I don't mind, as long as you put your masks on. Jerk. Do you have any water bottles? Now the water bottles cost $4 each, but I'm willing to comp a couple if it gets them to comply. I grab 2 bottles from the back and set them on a table about 6 feet away from them because they still aren't wearing masks. Me. Okay, I'm just going to set these here and keep my distance because I haven't had my shots yet. Jerk. Well, my sister got the shots, and you know what? She still caught it. Me. Okay. Well, it's not 100% effective, but jerk interrupts me because he's a jerk. Yeah, it's only 60% effective. He starts rambling off some BS facts, see, not facts, aggressively at me as I turn and walk away, angry and flustered. I don't have time for BS, and I'm not going to take this treatment from some jerk. I'm not going to get sucked into a confrontation with him. I walk back to my desk, and he's still shouting at me from across the room, and still hasn't put his mask on. The phone is ringing, and I take the call. A quick, unrelated guest issue I can have maintenance resolve, then call security. I let security know of the interaction, and he goes over to talk to them and tells them that they need to wear masks or go back to their room. They comply, but I can see them leering at me, and one makes the innocent comment, "Oh, did someone complain?" My mind went to heck, but my composure held and I did not engage. They remained in the lobby for about 15 minutes, masks on and off at random until they left, and I had the pleasure of listening to the aggressive one of them whine about his girl problems because he's a jerk. So at least I got to enjoy a bit of schadenfreude at his expense. When they got up to leave, they did not bother making eye contact, and neither did I. But I'm seriously not paid enough to deal with petty crap like this. And this seems to be a common guest interaction I've had over the course of this lockdown, and I'm just so tired of it. Oh, and as a final dessert, security told me their room number, so I charged them for the water bottles. I never explicitly said I would comp them, and since they decided to be jerks for no reason, I chose not to. Enjoy your overpriced Dasanis, you filthy animals. Edit. I just approved a guest's upgrade to a suite coming in this week. He is willing to pay $1,100 a night on top of the $160 a night rate he booked a standard room for a week. That's like an additional $8,000 in revenue off of one guest for a suite. You bet your booty I approved it. Low mid-tier member offering $1,300 a night guest versus I want a free upgrade as a Sparkly member guest. Sorry, Sparkly member, mid-tier gets it. Entitled parent finds out why nobody likes their kid. I, female 27, am a preschool teacher. I have a student, Connor. If someone sits 3 inches from where they're supposed to sit, Connor, who's 6, runs to us to report it. Someone spills a drop of milk on the table, report. Someone happens to brush past him, he says, "He pushed me and threw me to the ground." Someone almost ran into him on a bike, he says they rode over his toes on purpose and he is in terrible pain. Someone is painting next to him and picks up a pen, cue crying and, "She took a pen I was thinking of using soon." If someone is playing with a toy he wants, he will throw a tantrum until they get fed up and give it to him. All this has led to others taking a distance from him. They've even stopped playing with him outside of school. We've tried to get him to be included during school hours and have had multiple talks with him, but to no avail. Kids tell us that they feel like they have to walk on eggshells around him and it's tiring. I'm paraphrasing here. We've had countless meetings with parents present as well, who dismiss our concerns. He has been evaluated and doesn't have any diagnoses, disabilities, or anything. The main issue arose when Sarah had a birthday party and everyone in the class was invited but Connor. He was understandably upset and crying. As we could predict, the mom was there the next day fuming. She told us we had to force Sarah to invite her son by any means possible. When we said that we have no control over what happens after school and that no, we cannot call a meeting with all parents and tell them they have to make their kids spend time with him as she wants us to, she was furious. She even tried to approach Sarah when she got sight of her, but we blocked her and said she's not allowed to talk to her. Poor thing was really scared. The day after, Sarah's mom, who is a wonderful woman, told us that Connor's mom had called and shouted at her for not inviting him. She didn't know if she should just invite him, but Sarah and a few of her friends had specifically asked for him not to be there. I told her that we would support and respect her wishes, whatever she chooses to do. Well, the party was last night. Connor wasn't invited. The mom shows up the next day, and we went away to talk. Well, I talked. She shouted. I was pretty fed up, and I was wondering if I should call security. She kept screaming and blaming everything and everyone, but when she called us useless, incompetent teachers who do nothing while her completely innocent kid was being mistreated, I had enough. I told her he isn't completely innocent though, as we had had many talks and he was excluded because of his own behavior towards others, and based on what we've seen and heard, it's pretty understandable. Well, she went from shouting to shrieking and told me I was going to lose my job. I decided to call security after all. I don't know what's going to happen. I want to know, did I go too far by saying it's his own fault for not being invited? Well, what do you think? Did the teacher do anything wrong here or not? Please let us know.
Is there any way they can kick that kid out? He sounds like a monster.
Am I the jerk for embarrassing my brother's friend's parent when she thought that I was the housemaid? So what happened was that my brother had just turned 5 and my parents invited 4 of his friends and their parents to our house for a small party. I was cleaning the things in the kitchen while my mother went upstairs for her medicine, not related to the story, when I was approached by one of the parents who passed me some plates to wash and asked if I could speak English, to which I replied yes, as a second language. Not a lie, because it is true for me and my whole family. And then she proceeded to ask me about how long I'd been staying here, how is my family, etc. By that time, it was clear to me that she thought I was the housemaid. Instead of correcting her, I decided to entertain myself by playing along. I started to refer to my parents as sir and madam and cooked up a whole load of BS to answer her questions about my life. When I was done cleaning, I went back to the hall with my parents and mischievously called my brother young master, which confused him. And then my mother came downstairs and I called her madam too, to which she immediately realized what had happened and told me to stop it, also telling the parent that I am her daughter, the sister of the birthday boy. I have to admit, everyone laughed a little at the misunderstanding. Instead of laughing it off too, the parent became very red in the face. She apologized and then took her kid and left the party just like that. It was kind of awkward for a while, but the party went on without them since there are still 3 more kids with my brother. My parents told me after the party that I've taken it too far by embarrassing the parent, and they wanted me to apologize to her next time we meet, if there is a next time. I refused to, because I think she kind of asked for it. I could not stop myself from having a little fun. And who the heck just assumes someone to be the housemaid and gets all nosy about their life? Am I the jerk for embarrassing her? Extra info. This is actually not the first time I've pulled something like that, because I get mistaken as adopted or a babysitter sometimes, and I tend to troll them a little, and they usually laugh it off after finding out the truth. This is, however, the first time I got mistaken as a maid/housekeeper in my own darn home. Lady claims I stole her car and the police were called. I've seen posts about this kind of thing and thought, no way this is real. What kind of idiot would call the police for that? Well, yesterday it happened, and I'm still confused what this lady was thinking. We've been looking for a car for our youngest. Looking through online ads, we came across an ad for a luxury car that only wanted about 1/3 of what the car blue book says. Says car just suddenly stopped working. My husband is a mechanic, so we decided to look at it just to see. Immediately, he sees a couple of potential problems as to why it doesn't start. Car has new tires, body nearly perfect, interior needs a few easy fixes. Still well worth way more than the owner is asking, even with paying for repairs to get it running. Of course, we bought it. Youngest is ecstatic about getting a luxury car for graduation. Husband gets the car running, even easier fix than he originally thought. And now it's time for Crazy Lady. It's time for plates and registration. Off to the DMV we go. Come out with the temporary tags, and as husband is putting them on the car, this lady walks up. Lady.
Excuse me?
Me, distracted by my phone. Huh?
Excuse me?
Me. I'm sorry, do you need something?
Yes, that car.
My car? What about it?
Where did you get it?
We bought it a few weeks ago. Karen.
That's my car.
Husband. No, it isn't. Now get away from us. Karen.
Yes, that is the car I was going to buy from the previous owner, and you stole it from me.
Me. Lady, I paid the previous owner what they were asking, and nothing was said about you. Leave us alone. Karen.
Previous owner and I had an agreement about the car, and you came in and made her sell it to you. I want it back, and I want it now. I had to buy that piece of crap over there instead. Now, You take the piece of crap and give me my car.
Me. What the heck ever, jerk. Now get the heck out of my way.
I'm not going anywhere. I've already reported to the police that I have found my stolen car and they are on the way.
Husband, are you nuts, lady? You can't just report a car stolen because you missed the chance to buy it. What this insane jerk doesn't know is that we are actually waiting on the previous owner to show up to get her plate and registration because there was a mix-up with the title, DMV's fault, and we had to wait to get that fixed before we could title, register, and plate it, so we were still using the correct plates. Previous owner can then turn in her plate and get a refund for the months not used. 2 police cruisers pulled up about 5 minutes later. Previous owner pulled in right behind them. As the 2 officers are getting out and asking who called, previous owner walked up to me and my husband asking what was going on. She hadn't noticed Crazy Lady yet. Karen immediately started yelling how she had paid for this car, and we forced the previous owner to give us the title instead. She wanted us arrested and her given the title and possession of the car right now. One of the officers walked over to us. I grinned because it's one of my friend's sons. He grew up with and was friends with my oldest son. Officer, hey Brandy, want to tell me what's going on here? Me, I don't really know. We bought this car a few weeks ago from her, pointing to previous owner. And while we were waiting for her to show up to get her plate, this lady started screaming at us about stealing the car. Something about they, pointing between previous owner and Crazy Lady, had an agreement about the car, but she, previous owner, sold it to us instead, and now she, Karen, is demanding we take whatever car she ended up buying and we give her this one. Previous owner. OMG, this is exactly why I didn't sell her the car in the first place. She is my neighbor and she is insane. She asked me about it when I decided to sell it, and I told her she could buy it, but she wanted me to get it running again but still sell it to her for the low price. I told her I didn't want to deal with it, and that is why it was low. If I got it running again, I might just keep it, but I would definitely raise the selling price to at least double. She has called me a few times asking if I had it running yet, and I've told her no, but she kept calling me to tell her when I did. Officer then, going with procedures, checked all of her IDs, checked the bill of sale, previous registration, and ran the VIN. Everything checked out. Officer, I think we're done here. Addressing Karen. Ma'am, it is a crime what you have attempted here. Actually, you made a false report, which is a crime, and I could arrest you. But I'm not. I'm sure you're just upset, and you made a bad judgment call, so we will let it slide.
No, it wasn't a false report. That is my car.
Officer, ma'am, stop. Just stop. I could also charge you with attempted car theft, but we're all just going to walk away now.
No, I'm not just going to walk away. This is BS.
Pointing at the previous owner.
You owe me.
An amount that was twice what we paid for the car.
And you, I will get my car back.
Officer 2, ma'am, step over by the cruiser. We need to have a talk. I gave the plates to the previous owner, and Officer 1 told us to have a nice day. Husband and I went ahead and left, while previous owner went into the DMV. Karen was still ranting at Officer 2 about allowing us to steal the car. Previous owner texted me later that Karen was in the back of the police car when she left, still yelling. I'm not worried about any future contact with Karen. We don't live in the town where the DMV is or where they live. In a couple of months, the car will be 2 hours away with my youngest at college. Karen doesn't know our names, and previous owner doesn't know where we live. Speaking of cars, what's your dream car? Please let us know.
I've always wanted the DeLorean from Back to the Future. My heart skips a beat when I see a DeLorean in public.
Am I the jerk for disinviting a coworker for perpetually spoiling things? Almost every Friday, my coworkers and I will go out and get drinks and socialize. More often than not, it's an open invitation for the entire office, and even people outside of our team will join. We typically have a great time, but only when Logan, 20, male, doesn't show. Logan means well, but is easily excitable and engages people in conversations they're not interested in. The worst of this behavior has to do with spoiling movies, shows, games, etc. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that I had tickets to see the new Mortal Kombat movie over the weekend. Logan lit up and immediately responded, "You'll love the scene where spoiler happens and when spoiler shows up." I was bummed and walked away without continuing the conversation. Later that same night, Amy, another coworker, was discussing a TV show that she was a few episodes behind in. Logan blurts out, "I can't believe that beloved character died in episode whatever number." Amy, who had obviously not yet watched it, went silent and turned away. Logan laughed and said, "I just can't help it. I get too excited." None of us were amused. A few days later, in our team-only group chat, someone brought up Logan's tendency to spoil things and admitted that they wished he weren't invited to outings because of it. Multiple people agreed and began to list everything Logan had spoiled for them. With this in mind, I didn't add Logan to the email invite for the next week's hangout. He noticed he never got an invite and began to ask around. As I was the one who had written the email, he was eventually directed to me. He pulled me aside as I left for lunch and let me know I excluded him by mistake. Rather than try and play it off, I just told him the truth, that the fact that he spoils everything is obnoxious and rude. I told him that joining conversations just to spoil things is bad enough, but he also starts conversations with spoilers. Logan was immediately defensive, claiming it's not his fault we're slow to watch and play, etc., and that he's just making conversation. I told him that if he swore he'd be more conscious about this habit, that he could join us that Friday. He came, and lo and behold, spoiled the plot of a movie I wanted to see in theaters. Out of frustration, I called him a jerk and told him this is exactly why no one socializes with him. He left soon after, and even though I said what everyone was thinking, I felt like a jerk. Am I the jerk? Edit. Part 1, a few weeks ago. We had lunch catered and all joined in the break room. A coworker had brought a book to read during lunch and Logan saw the cover, pulled up Wikipedia, and read the entire synopsis aloud, including the big twist ending. I asked him why he would do that, and he responded, "Why not?" Edit Part 2. The book was Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Logan? Please let us know.
I'm gonna spoil the end of this video for you right now. We're gonna ask you to join as a channel member so Reddit Boy and I have enough ramen for the week.
Copy pasta for restaurants that don't put pay in job posts. Everyone is hiring, and we have options now. We can demand to know what we are potentially working for and choose the best offer. Employers still act like saying, "Hey, take a chance and work for us. We want to know everything about you, but we won't tell you anything about us," is an acceptable way to get staff. Stick up for yourselves and ask the hard questions. I sent in a job application today for a job that expected a lot from employees, i.e., we expect you to do the job of 3 people by yourself. They didn't post anything about compensation, flexibility, or benefits. They said they would only talk turkey if you sent them a resume. They also wanted you to answer 3 questions. What is your favorite drink? What is your favorite part of working in the hospitality industry? And what do you expect to get from working at X restaurant? After getting laughed at in the Facebook group, they took the post. Feel free to use the format if you feel like it. Dear hiring manager, I'm looking for a job because if I don't have one, I will starve and become homeless. I have 12 years experience in the industry. My favorite drink is a non-alcoholic one I can relax with at the end of the workday because my job isn't so unnecessarily stressful due to a lack of staff and bad management that the only way I can get to sleep at night is to get blackout drunk. My favorite aspect of the hospitality industry is its ability to pay me enough money to live with flexible hours and management that understands I have a full, beautiful life outside of work. What I want to achieve by joining Restaurant X is money. My availability is dependent upon compensation and benefits. If you would like to talk turkey and see my extensive resume, please send me your compensation package and references from your old employees. Please include why your pre-lockdown staff isn't returning in your response. Thanks for your interest. Am I the jerk for not giving sister-in-law my son's baby clothes? My brother and sister-in-law announced last month that they are expecting. My whole family is very excited because this will be the first grandchild born in our family since my kids were born 22 and 19 years ago. This will also be my first niece or nephew, so needless to say, I am over the moon happy for them. About 2 weeks ago, our youngest son came to me and his dad and told us that his girlfriend of 3 years was pregnant. We were surprised, but told them both that we are here for them and the baby, and whatever they need, we will do our best to help them out. My son and his girlfriend have decided to keep the baby and will live with us until they get on their own feet. We told them that they can stay as long as they need, rent-free to save up money. So not only do I get a new niece or nephew, I'm also getting a new grandchild. Friday night, I went through boxes I had of baby items from when my kids were born. I saved 1 box of keepsakes for each, which include an outfit and a blanket that my grandma crocheted for each of them before they were born. Sadly, my grandma passed before my youngest was born, so my two kids have the only handmade items from her. I also have the outfit and blanket my grandmother made for me and said I was passing it on for them to use. I posted on Facebook that my son and his girlfriend were thrilled to get them, and my sister-in-law called and asked why I was giving them to my son and not to her. I explained that these were items made for my son and offered to make her something similar since I have all of my grandma's patterns. I said she could pick the colors and design and I would pay for all of the materials. I also told her that my brother had things from when he was a baby, and my sister-in-law told me that he got rid of them because he never thought he would have kids. She then went on to say that her baby deserved them more, and me passing them to my son is breaking family traditions. I told her that there was no such family tradition, and again offered to make her any outfits and blankets she wanted, and she refused. She's now saying that I will never see my niece or nephew because of my obvious favoritism. Am I the jerk for not giving her my son's baby things? Post update. I hope that it's okay to give an update to the situation. I apologize for not responding to the comments. We did a Mother's Day dinner at my mom's tonight. So, dinner was very tense with my sister-in-law. My son and his girlfriend were there with us, and anytime someone would ask how his girlfriend was feeling, sister-in-law would chime in and try to one-up her. It got to the point where my son and his girlfriend were so uncomfortable they left. I did pull my brother to the side and asked what the problem was and why sister-in-law seemed so upset. He said that she feels like my son and his girlfriend are stealing the attention from her and that she feels like nobody cares about their baby. I told my brother that was absolutely ridiculous, that we are all super happy and excited for their baby. My mother overheard the conversation and got very angry and confronted my sister-in-law about it. Sister-in-law basically insinuated that my son got his girlfriend pregnant on purpose, that his baby will be the first great-grandchild and that their baby will always have to share its first everything and compete. My mother got very upset about this and told sister-in-law that this isn't some weird baby competition, that there were 2 new lives being born into our family in 2 decades, and that this was the most precious and wonderful thing any family could ask for. Sister-in-law became furious and stormed off. My brother apologized and left with her. Sister-in-law texted my mother about an hour ago and basically told her that since nobody cares about her baby, we won't have to worry about it because we will never meet or get to know it. We are all devastated. My son and his girlfriend are extremely upset and feel like they should apologize. For what? I don't know. And my brother is now in the middle and has no idea what to do.
Wow, she's already an entitled mom, but she's not even a mom yet.
Am I the jerk for not letting a kid eat a ham sandwich in a vegan restaurant? The story is mostly in the title. I was working in a vegan restaurant that offered a wide variety of vegan foods, savory, sweet, etc. It had been a vegan cafe for years, and all of the branding made it clear that it was fully vegan, written on menus, signs, etc. Obviously, there's a general expectation on most places like this that you don't eat food not bought on the premises, but obviously we waive it for kids and their special food, biscuits, etc. I've seen people feeding yogurt-looking things and turned a blind eye and almost never specifically examine jars of baby food to check that they're vegan. Generally, these are in self-contained pots and the parents use their own little spoons, etc. One day, some lady came in for lunch and had a kid about 4 years old with her. They ordered and asked for a plate for the kid's sandwich. This is already a more substantial meal than what we usually expect, but whatever. When I take their food order, I realize that the kid is eating a ham sandwich, quite obvious as the kid is ripping it up and spreading bits about, etc. I tell the woman the meat can't be eaten on the premises. This was inside, and they need to put the stuff back in the Tupperware. They get upset and say that the kid will go hungry, and I say they're welcome to order one of our vegan sandwiches or anything else. I say that they could have eaten another type of sandwich, even a vegetarian, but not vegan sandwich would have been more acceptable. But in the interests of our other customers, we cannot have ham eaten here, especially inside and especially using our plates. They got angry and said that they'll take their meals to go and won't be back. On the way out, they shout that I'm disgusting for depriving them of their food. I can see their point, but also I think they should have thought more before coming into our cafe. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit. The owner has said kids' food is fine if they are small kids and parents are eating, but even staff can't bring meat in if they choose to bring in their own meals. There is a no meat or fish on-site rule. They take pride in saying to customers that we never have any animal products on site, including allergy sufferers, religious people, etc. Karen demands my son cut his hair for her wedding. Bear with. This is my first post. My 15-year-old son was asked in January to be the flower dude at my brother's wedding, which will be at the end of this month. Since then, my soon-to-be sister-in-law has made frequent comments to my son along the lines of,
"So, what are we going to do about this hair?"
He has thick, curly hair that he's been growing out for a little while now. He's got a goal photo that we've been showing to his hairdresser. A couple of weeks ago, I texted my brother to let him know that we will groom and style his hair and use product to tame it, but I was not going to make him cut his hair. At that time, my brother said that was fine. Then he told me his fiancée wants to take my son to her hairdresser for a trial run on his hairstyle. Side note, won't go into the entire history, but I've had issues with her trying to dictate and control, including one time she told my brother he couldn't accompany my son to the ER for stitches unless she could go too. I told him I'd make sure we did the trial run on my son's hair. He then wrote that fiancé wanted final approval. I said I'd make sure he looked nice on their wedding day. Then, a few days ago, my stepfather wrote my son, telling him that he would not be getting fitted for his tux until his hair was cut. His exact words were, "No decent haircut, no tuxedo fitting. You will not be in the wedding, but seated in the general audience with your family. That is the result of no haircut. Got it?" My mother is also firmly on the haircut side. She feels I should make my son cut off his hair because it's a very formal wedding, and claimed we should have known that was the rule from the beginning. I finally texted her back and stated had we been told that was a condition of being in the wedding, my son could have declined then. Instead, he was subjected to several months of passive-aggressive remarks until I finally addressed it. So now it's really blown up. At this point, we aren't even going, because to me, kicking family out of a wedding party for refusing to alter his appearance when he has had this hair for years is ridiculous. My family thinks I'm unreasonable for not forcing my son to cut his hair. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Bridezilla? Please let us know.
I honestly wouldn't want to be part of that wedding in the first place. That brother of yours is in for one rough marriage.
Don't cheat on your graduation lifeline. So I, 19 male, and my now ex-girlfriend, 18 female, have been together for more than a year. We were in the same class during middle school and high school, and now a 2-year friendship eventually evolved into a relationship. Y'all know how it is. We were happily together, at least so I thought, since December of 2019. I thought everything was great between us the whole time, although recently, about March, I noticed her becoming very distant and barely writing first, dry texting, etc. I asked her multiple times if everything is okay and gave her some space, but it continued for the next few months. I was naturally very upset as I've been through heck and back together with her when she was going through depression and a really hard time at the end of 2020. It suddenly felt like all this time was wasted and worth nothing. I, as a naive high schooler, truly believed that she was the one. It was serious after all. We matched perfectly together. We spent about 3 full months crying together at night when she was going through a rough time. We had similar plans for the future, similar interests, and it seemed we were meant for each other. My girlfriend, let's call her Caroline, was studying to become a lawyer, so she was mostly into humanities subjects. I, on the other hand, am studying biochem for medical school. I apologize if this is all confusing and different. We live in Europe. She was required to attend at least one science subject to graduate: physics, biology, chemistry, or psychology. She always hated these subjects and just took them because they were necessary to graduate. She ended up picking chemistry as I was a natural and tutored 9th and 10th graders chemistry in my free time, and I always helped her with her assignments, etc. It started as helping her before exams and assignments so she could get a good passing grade, and after her rough time warped into me writing half of the assignments for her. In February, she started to do everything with me again though. We had online the whole time. Anyways, enough backstory. After noticing Caroline starting to get a little distant and she never properly answered my questions regarding her behavior, I wanted to see how far it would go. For 1 week, I didn't invite her or call her or text her first. In a total of 1 week, she called me 3 times. Twice to ask me about her assignment and once telling me how she felt insecure and bad. I'm not a jerk. I helped her out with her school stuff and comforted her when she felt down. Me being the naive, love is perfect lovebird I am, Chalked it up to her feeling depressed again, but feeling embarrassed about it. I continued helping and comforting her for the next month until nothing changed and she never opened up. I was honestly doubting everything by then. Is it me? What am I doing wrong? Etc. I tried everything I could. Eventually, I asked her friends if something had happened, but they said she was the same as always towards them. I knew something was up, but I didn't know what it was yet. One day when she came over to my place, it was only the second time she did that in March. Usually she came at least twice a week. We were sitting in my room and talking while she was trying out Valorant. After she went to my kitchen to make herself something, I hear a notification from her phone. I'm usually not a snooper, but I had a quick look at her screen that lit up. I wouldn't be able to read the message or who it was anyway. It was a Discord notification. I was very surprised. I knew for a fact that she didn't have it a month ago. Plus, she only plays Minecraft once in a while. She never uses Discord or anything. So the next morning, I did some snooping, and sure enough, I found a whole other Instagram account of hers where she branded herself to be an aesthetic gamer girl. Not that there's anything wrong with that. She had never told me about this. I couldn't find any of her friends following her on that account either. Sure enough, she had her Discord username in her bio. Curious, and to be honest, jerk me decided it would be a good idea to create a throwaway account and try to text her to see what she was all about. Before you complain to me, I know I was the jerk here. After texting her on my new account, we talked for a bit until she became flirty. We played a few games together, once again on a throwaway account I bought for $1. I kind of broke down and started questioning my sanity. I had been with her all this time, and through so much crap, I couldn't believe she would do this to me. After the sadness came from the anger, I wanted to know how much she took it. I found it hard to believe that she would just casually flirt with guys like this. After setting up my first recon mission plan, I found out more about her until I found out about her supposed boyfriend. At that point, I had a huge emotional breakdown, and I felt like I've wasted so much time helping someone who would betray me like this. From her stories, I would later find out that they had been seeing each other for a whole month by now, about when her behavior started to change. At this point, I started hatching my revenge plan. I knew I would not let her off the hook this easily. I spent 2 weeks pulling all-nighters, making sure I had all of my work done till the end of the year, until graduation. I spent all of my remaining time creating fake chemistry textbook pages so I could make my pro-revenge more believable. All of the information was wrong. I knew I had to give her a taste of her own medicine, betray her like she had me. For the remaining 2 months of the school year, I fed her all of this fake information and made sure she got all of her assignments wrong. I knew she wouldn't be able to tell anyone she was copying off of me, as our high school had a very, very strict rule for plagiarism. As much as 3 small cheating attempts on a small exam would get you expelled. So after letting the pot stew for those 2 painful, awful months, I let the crap hit the fan. As our teacher had to handle an outrageous amount of classes, she always checked our assignments late, often by 2 or 3 months all at once. I knew I could use this fact to my advantage. After she submitted her final assignments that were worth a huge percentage of our final graduation grade, I told her I knew about her shenanigans and that they had been going on for 3 entire months by now. I told her how she hurt me and how it will come back to haunt her. I made sure of that. She mostly brushed me off and acted as if I were the villain, as I couldn't just leave her and that she was only friends with that guy. Although I told her something was going to happen, I never told her what it would be. Trust me, she never saw it coming. 1 week later, the end of the year results rolled around. When we received our final grades, I was over the moon as I passed with flying colors. On the other hand, her not so much. Due to her final assignments and all quarter 4 work equaling to an F, she called me crying and asked for help. She told me she wouldn't be able to graduate if she wouldn't receive at least a passing grade this year. She told me our teacher gave her a final chance after telling her how disappointed she was. Caroline has 2 more months at school with extra one-on-one online lessons with our saint teacher. Honestly, props go out to her. To be honest, I felt really bad for her and her situation, knowing very well if she didn't work her butt off in these 2 months, in a subject that she hated, she would have to repeat the last year, without someone constantly helping her with her chem. That compassion quickly went away, and I told her I would help her, but only if she apologized and paid me my regular tutoring fees. Caroline went full-on ballistic after that and screamed at me. How could I do this to her? I hung up, and she called me a few seconds after, apologizing and agreeing to pay me for my help. She now has 2 months of intense memorizing with her ex if she wants to graduate. Edit. Now she has to study for those 2 months, and when the regular end of the school year comes, she has to complete a series of exams, think 4 to 8, covering the most important topics from this year. If she passes all of them, she will pass chemistry. Speaking of school, which subject did you hate the most in school? Please let us know.
For me, it was chemistry.
Family decides the cake meant for my achievement is their snack. So I know this is going to sound petty as heck, but please hear me out. Context. So last weekend, I, 19 female, was awarded my Queen Scout certificate by Lord Baden-Powell on behalf of the Queen, which is a pretty big achievement in scouting. My grandmother came round our place on Wednesday and gave me a box of chocolates as a congratulations and a Cole's mud cake, fellow Aussies know the one, for me to share with the family to celebrate. Of course, the only 2 people out of the 5 of us living here that night were my dad and older brother, except my dad was out, so it was just me and my brother. I put the cake in the fridge for Friday when all of us would be there, and that's when I told Dad what it was for. The cake had been untouched before now, before heading to my course for the day. Anyway, I got home and a noticeably large piece was missing. Yup, my dad had taken a bit out of it to snack on. We didn't actually get to have the celebratory cake cutting. I was working a trial shift 2 hours away for a new job on Saturday after losing my old job a week ago. And on Sunday morning, my 3 siblings, 22 male, 17 female, and 11 male, headed to Mom's for Mother's Day. I came home from uni today, and a tiny quarter shape of the cake was left, and I pointed it out to Dad, who said in an offhand tone, "Yeah, sister, who's currently sick, mind you, and little brother took a few pieces from it, and the rest is going in little brother's lunchbox tomorrow morning." I didn't say anything. All I was thinking was along the lines of, and was I ever going to get any of it? That wasn't theirs to take, and that was for me to share, not for people to hack at for themselves. I guess it's selfish of me to be like that, but I'm sad that the cake my grandma got to celebrate an award I had completed under lockdown restrictions and worked my butt off for during the past 3 years was just being pigged out on and not eaten under the original intention. I'm quite sad about it. I wanted to celebrate as Grandma wanted, and my family decided to ignore that and treat it like their own personal snack. Yes, this is a pattern with my family. If I bring home any snacks I bought or some sweet-tasting foods and desserts from uni, studying to be a chef, it'll be gone effective immediately. And if it's savory, healthy, or anything not dessert-like, they complain that they don't like or want it and let it sit in the fridge, even though there's usually too much for me to have, and I tell them that they can have it. My older brother even asked when I start making desserts, and I do try and hide snacks, but my dad's rule is, if it's in a public place, like a pantry or fridge, or sitting in my bedside table, it's fair game for everyone else. To clarify just in case, I know cake is meant to be eaten, and that it was meant to be shared. I'm just upset that I didn't get to be the one to share it. I was ignored, and we didn't actually get to celebrate at all. And yup, they all expect invitations to my actual badge presentation in July, where there will be more cake, a full cake for family and for me to take home, and cupcakes for guests. I'm betting the cake will be gone by Tuesday that week. Edit. Thanks everyone for the support, congratulations, and internet cake. To everyone saying I should get a secondhand fridge or a cupboard for my room, unfortunately I have neither the space in my room, shared with my sister, which is a tripping hazard in itself since there's no room to walk around, nor the money unfortunately. Also, I don't want to confuse my elderly blind cat. She likes knowing where things are. Thanks for the thought though. As for throwing it out, my grandma spent money on that, and I don't want her to waste neither food nor her money. Edit 2. I did have half of the remainder last night, and I decided to put the rest in a packed lunch for me for uni. But given that it was 2:30 a.m. and I passed out, I came down this morning and half of what I had left, a tiny sliver, was left. Had a chat to my sister, and she said that Dad had said it was cake for everyone. And then she said, "I'm sorry, I'll get you a new one." And I told her that no, it was Dad I had an issue with, and that if anyone was going to buy a new cake, it was him. Also, for everyone saying that I just got a new job and am making income, I did the trial shift on Saturday, but got an email last night saying I hadn't made the cut. So I'm actually fully unemployed, and given that my previous job underpaid me, something I'm still working out, I don't have much at all, and I'm trying to save. Can't move out yet since I don't have the economical stability either. For everyone saying, get revenge by putting peppers or laxatives in a new cake, I found those comments hilarious to read. Unfortunately, I'm not brave enough for those kinds of antics. Again, thank you everyone for your support. Edit 3. Despite my homegrown honey, I'm a beekeeper and I have hives at my stepdad's. Being tucked away, I went to put some in my sandwich for school, and most of it was missing. The honey jar even had my name on it. Low-key thinking about making a cake that says, "Congrats, OP" on it. Also, my older brother came out, saw the cake, and laughed, saying, "That cake didn't last long." And I said, "Yeah, I didn't get any of it either." And he just laughed and went, "Oh well." Have you ever had a problem with family members eating stuff that belonged to you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
That's one of the best things about once you're out on your own. Nobody to mess with your food.
Entitled neighbor complains about the gravel in our driveway. So for the past 3 weeks, we've had a meter-tall pile of gravel in our driveway. We got the gravel because we've had some problems with water getting into the basement. There's a large slope going towards our house that is letting water into our basement and causing flooding problems. My parents had talked to a few plumbers and landscapers to see what the problem was, and we were told that if we can make the slope go away from our house, that we would no longer have the issue. So upon hearing that, we tore down our back deck and bought about 4 meters worth of gravel to fill it in. So far, no flooding problems. Now on to the story. Yesterday, we were working in the backyard. My brother, 12, my dad, 48, and my mom, 45, and I, 16, were all doing different things. My mom was hauling gravel from the pile in our driveway to our backyard, while my brother and I helped my dad mount stairs under the back door. After about 5 minutes, we noticed my mom hadn't come back yet and went to see what was going on. We found our neighbor from across the street. He was asking what my mom was doing. After a few pleasantries, he finally said, "So, when are you getting rid of the gravel?" Mom, as soon as we're done fixing up the backyard. Entitled neighbor, "Can't you get it done by Monday? It's a real eyesore. I don't want to have to look out of my window and see that." Now, for a fact, my mom parks in front of the pile for this exact reason, so people can't see it unless they look. Me, well, if you don't like it, don't look at it. I got a playful smack for that one from my dad, and the neighbor had given me a sour look as if I had just shoved a lemon down his throat. Entitled neighbor, "Well, you have to get rid of it. It's making my wife upset. She doesn't want to have to look at it." Me, "Well, you have blinds and eyes, and you can control both. Look somewhere else. What makes your wife upset is not our problem." After that, we all went back to what we were doing and left him standing there fuming. My dad laughed a little at me, but told me to watch my tone next time and let him and my mom handle it. Later, we also discussed leaving the gravel there and parking the cars so they could actually see it. Entitled coworker angry that my family emergency mildly inconvenienced her. I sent the screenshot I'm linking at the bottom of this post to my best friend to show her the level of ridiculousness that I'm leaving behind, and she suggested you guys might enjoy it. Anyway, this story actually begins 2 years ago. I work at a university doing somewhat specialized technical and project support type stuff for a large department. I've got this coworker we'll call Stephanie. Stephanie is one of those people that demands everything now because she's very important. A couple of years ago, I ran afoul of Stephanie because I was out of the office on leave that had been approved by my supervisor and the department, mind you. I was out for 2 weeks taking care of my mom after she had surgery due to cancer, which I was very open about because I didn't want to deal with people asking how I enjoyed my vacation. There's no way Stephanie didn't know why I was out. She went to my office and was told I wasn't in, and she was upset because I needed to help her now. So she called my personal cell phone. We have a list of people's personal cell phones in case of emergencies, like, actual emergencies, not, "I need something done." And she called again, and again, and again. Finally, I picked up, and she ripped me a new one because I needed to answer her very important question. I told her I was out on leave to take care of my mom, and her response was something to the effect of,
"It's not my problem your mom's sick. I need this taken care of now, and you're holding things up. I'm going to report you for never being at work."
Never mind the fact that other people could have helped her, or the fact that this was the first time I used any leave in ages. And she did, in fact, report me to the dean, to whom I sent my approved leave forms and my call log showing she had called me, I believe, 10 times in a row. Stephanie got a slap on the wrist for that incident. Fast forward to now. I'm leaving for my dream job. Hooray! I sent an email out to the department mailing list saying, "Hey, I'm going. It's been a pleasure." The thing is, they're not sure they're going to fill my role in an effort to save money, which people are pretty upset about because I support a lot of things. However, because most of my coworkers are logical and awesome people, that anger is directed at the college and not at me. Stephanie is not logical. So I get a Facebook Messenger message from Stephanie, who I'm not Facebook friends with. I accepted the message out of morbid curiosity mostly. And the entitlement continues, folks. I'm selfish for leaving my job because of all of the department has done for me. So apparently I owe it to them to stay or something. What? And there's a bonus side helping of misguided self-importance from her. I especially like that her spelling degrades as the message goes on. I'm sure she was just on mobile or something, but I'd like to imagine she worked herself into such a rage that she couldn't type. Oh boy, I won't miss Stephanie. Could I have handled the interaction more maturely and professionally? Sure, I probably could have. I'll concede I was a bit of a jerk in some of my responses, but to be honest, I was absolutely done with Stephanie's crap, and it was a lovely bonus that I got to use something out of my folder of snarky memes that I keep for arguments with my in-laws. Quick edit because it's come up. Yes, I sent the unredacted screenshot to Stephanie's supervisor and our division HR person. Here's the screenshot. Haha, wasn't expecting to hear from you. What's up?
Saw your email. Can't believe you're really leaving.
Yeah, well, you know how it goes. Something opportunity I couldn't pass up. I've really enjoyed getting to work with you and everybody else there.
This is really going to leave us in a bind. We really need blank operating. You know how much we rely on those services.
Oh, I know, but I talked to Blank, and it sounds like they've got plans to get someone else in there soon. She should be in touch in the next few weeks, I'd imagine.
Don't you think it's kind of selfish to leave?
Wait, what? Like, you really can't think someone changing jobs is selfish.
I just mean after all that they've done for you, you've been able to finish your degree, and you obviously aren't thinking about all the people there that really rely on you.
Listen, I really appreciate that you feel like I've done a good job and that my leaving is going to make an impact, but quite frankly, I need to do what's best for me, which is taking this job.
It's really selfish, and you know, wherever you go, you aren't going to be able to take days off whenever the heck you want.
What? Oh my god. I took time off because my mom had cancer, and I'm really sorry you had problems with Blank because of it, but my mom is infinitely more important to me.
And now you're being unprofessional. Good luck getting a recommendation.
Ha! I got a good recommendation, thanks, from Blank, who's been supervising me all of these years. I don't need a recommendation from you, and I don't think I'm being unprofessional here, quite honestly, and if I am, I'd say it's a fair reaction to you being unreasonable.
We won't take you back whenever you lose your job.
Snarky meme. Okay, yes, I admit that was unprofessional, but frankly, you deserved it. And I'm blocking. Best of luck. Am I the jerk for kicking my mom out of my kid's party after she tried to bring my ex's son? I, 29 male, broke up with my ex-girlfriend over 5 years ago when I caught her cheating on me. We had a 7-month-old son that I learned wasn't mine after I demanded a paternity test, and so I was out of his life after that. It hurt going through all that, but what hurt the most was some people in my family being against me leaving my son. Some stopped talking to me. Others I stopped talking to, like my mom, because she still wanted to accept my ex's kid like her first grandchild. So I said fine and cut contact. Last year, I had my first son. We celebrated his 1-year birthday on the 1st of this month. When my girlfriend got pregnant, my mom reached out and wanted to make amends, for us to be in each other's lives. She said she hasn't had any more contact with my ex. I was mostly thinking for my son and that it would be nice for him to know his grandma, so I gave her a chance. On the actual day of my son's birthday, my brother saw my mom first and goes, "Oh crap." He saw her getting out of the car with my ex's kid from the window and he told me. My brother told me he had no idea she was going to bring the kid and said he'll keep her outside if I want. I went outside instead, and my mom had the kid wait in the car while we talked. I was so upset. I remember yelling at her for trying to bring him to my son's birthday. My mom kept apologizing for hiding it. She just felt really bad because his real dad doesn't want to be involved, and they still have pictures of me and him from when he was a baby, so he still thinks he's my kid. It was hard not to lose any more of my cool, so I just remember saying, "Get the heck out, and don't ever come back or bring him around again." It was a whole thing, and everyone who was already there saw it play out. My mom left, and my brothers were trying to cheer me up and get the party back in a happy mood for my son. Some family were in a bad mood, and they left early. The crap storm happened after that, and they're mad for how I treated my mom. Even she said something too, that she's heard how much I disrespected her, and she knows it was wrong to lie, but she was really trying to make it easier on X's son by making him feel like part of a family. She really thinks I need to give him a chance because I loved him once. I just hung up on her. Still, everyone's calling me the jerk for callously kicking her out for having good intentions, even if they were misplaced. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mom? Please let us know.
If only people could stop cheating, we wouldn't have these kinds of situations. Like that'll ever happen.
Threaten me because you called the wrong place? Have fun in jail. I posted this as a reply to someone else's thread, so I omitted several details and a good portion of the conversation to shorten it. After several suggestions, I decided to post it here and add more details in conversation, which has made it quite a bit longer. It happened before caller ID was standard on phone lines, and I was a lot more long-suffering back then. Otherwise, I would have just hung up when she tried calling again. Also, this was over 20 years ago, so the conversation isn't exact. My work number is a digit off of the local Chuck E. Cheese's. Ours is XXYY, theirs is XYYY. We are an industrial supply company and don't even have a public entrance. We always answer, "Thank you for calling our company. How may I assist you today?" Most of the time, people understand when we tell them our number and the number they're trying to reach. Sometimes they'll double check with, "Are you sure this isn't the right number?" I did have one idiot that knew we were lying because she was using the redial button, and it always dials the right number. She gave up after the 5th call. One time though, a lady insisted on talking to a manager. Me, "Thank you for her."
Put me on with your manager, now.
Me, "I am the manager. How may I help?"
We were just there a few minutes ago and were turned away because we didn't have a reservation. What are you going to do about it? I want a refund plus $50 for wasting my time.
Me, realizing she's trying to reach Chuck E. Cheese. "Are you trying to—"
I'm trying,
can actually hear her eyes rolling.
"to get a refund plus $50. All of your restaurant workers are idiots."
Me, "Ma'am, if you don't stop interrupting me, I can't—"
Excuse me? You do not get to tell a customer what to do.
Long Karen rant of how rude I am and that I wouldn't be working in food service anymore.
I'm the customer, and you are trying to interrupt me? I don't think so.
At this point, I hang up, only to have her call back 5 seconds later. Me, "Thank you," her screaming so loud that the speaker was crackling.
You did not just hang up on me. I'm coming down with my husband and brother to take care of you personally. I hope your insurance is paid up.
Physical threats? Game time. Me. Fake crying voice. "No, please, I'll do whatever you want." Her.
Give me your name, now.
"My last name is Soul. The first name is Richie. Just please don't hurt me."
Oh, I won't hurt you. I can't control my husband and brother, though.
Me, still fake crying. "Please, no. I need this job and can't work around kids with a black eye." Her.
Well, you should have thought about that before disrespecting me. A black eye will be the least of your problems.
Me. "Sorry, I didn't mean to do so. Can we just forget this? I can leave the refund at the counter so you don't even have to see me."
Nope. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it.
Maybe you'll remember this beating when you think about being disrespectful to another customer. This lady's just evil.
Also, I want it in cash.
Throughout this entire exchange, she never once gave me her name, so I had to ask. Me. "Let me just get your name for the paperwork." Her, screaming.
Let me? Did you seriously just try to tell me what to do? Have you learned nothing yet?
Another long rant about how people working in public businesses are worth less than something you scrape off your shoes.
I will have your job for this disrespect.
Me. "Please, forgive me. I meant no disrespect." Her.
No, I'm not giving you my name. You'll know me when we get there, you little weasel. We'll be there in 30 minutes. Get ready to clock out and get your affairs in order.
slams the phone down. I called the manager, first name basis, because we were constantly getting calls for each other at Chuck E. Cheese, and told her to expect 3 people who will demand and possibly get physical to talk to a Richie Soul. She laughed and said, "That's a good one, but you missed the obvious fake name for our establishment, Charles Formaggio." Anyway, I know who you're talking about. I'll have the cops waiting for her. Thanks. An hour later, I got a call from the manager laughing her head off because the lady was in there yelling about wanting to talk to someone named Richie Soul and screaming that Richie Soul owes her some money. The police were there and arrested her and the 2 men with her on outstanding warrants. Edit. I realized last night that some people may not be familiar with Chuck E. Cheese. It's a pizza place with an arcade, an animatronic band, mainly for kids to celebrate birthdays. They require a non-refundable deposit to reserve their party rooms. Apparently, this lady thought she had a reservation, was denied, and felt that she was owed her deposit back, plus something extra. Entitled mom wants me to pay her rent. My mom, who's 60, was a stay-at-home mom all of her life. When I was in my late teens, my dad's mom got sick and moved in with us. My mom hated this and moaned about how my grandma was being a burden and how my dad shouldn't have moved her in without her consent. My grandma died, and a few years later, my dad divorced her. I don't hold it against my dad. She was horrible to him and horrible to my gran. Anyway, my mom got a single lump sum divorce payment 5 years ago. It was a big lump sum, and she has been living pretty nicely for the last 5 years. But despite my advice, she has now spent all of the money. Last month, she called my brother and I and asked us to pay her rent, which we did. She's now telling us that she needs us to pay her rent and for her food and her bills and her entire living expenses because she can't work. Can't is a weird word. She does have some minor medical problems, back-related, and says she can't lift more than 10 pounds. But the main thing is, she just doesn't want to. She says she will go insane if she has to do the same thing every day. She's also said some negative things about not flipping burgers. My mom has no formal qualifications other than a high school diploma. I really don't want to pay her rent for the rest of my life. I have a stable income, but it's not huge, $50K, and I wanted to propose to my girlfriend and maybe one day buy a house, not take on a full-time dependent. I know I'm not legally required to support her, but it feels so wrong to just say, "Forget you," and let her be evicted. After all, she's my mother. Edit. To answer some questions. 1. Neither I nor my brother live with my mom. We both live in other states with our partners. 2. I'm 30 and a woman. 3. My mom did not care for my gran. She refused to speak to her or enter her side of the house. To give you an idea of the severity, there was a tornado warning one day while I was at school. My mom took shelter. She left my gran bedridden on the other side of the house. Edit 2. My mom is not a widow. My dad is still alive. Well, what do you think? Should OP pay for their mom's rent or not? Please let us know.
I'd email job applications to her every single day.
Went to senior center to deliver pizza. Left with a new mom. I'm a pizza delivery guy and was winding down for a much-needed early close on Mother's Day Sunday. I'm one of the only people on staff who didn't have family plans that day. My family situation is what you might call complicated, so worked all morning while short-staffed and was pretty beat. It was especially emotionally hammering to deliver so many pizzas to happy families visiting or hosting their moms. I was ready to go home and get drunk and forget about the whole stupid holiday. So I get a late call just a few minutes before we closed and decided to take it because money is money, and it was a pretty big order, 6 pies. So I loaded up and realized about 3/4 of the way to the destination that the address was for the local senior center. They used to order all the time, tip really well, and make really sweet conversation before the lockdown, so I was psyched to see that they were safe and steady enough to order pizzas again. I snuck them a side of breadsticks from a jerk who never tips and always harasses our drivers that I was dropping off along the way. By the time he had called to complain, we'd be closed. I got there and was glad to finish off what had been an overall really crappy day with a pleasant trip to the senior center and carried the food to the front desk. The receptionist offered to carry the pizzas back, but she looked frail enough to be a senior center resident herself, so I said I was happy to get them where they were going. She checked me and gave me a new mask. Not sure what was wrong with mine, but whatever. And I found my way to some event room where they had ordered the pizzas. And it was a total gut punch. Literally just a room full of sons and daughters visiting their mothers and having some kind of festive party. My good mood went away real quick, and I dropped the pizzas at the table and shuffled out. But I realized that while they had prepaid for the pizzas over the phone with a credit card, they hadn't tipped. So no matter how bitter I was, I had to make in-person contact with whoever had ordered the pizzas, or I had basically just wasted half an hour. I went around the room asking for Margaret, the name on the order, and eventually someone put me in front of her. Our shop doesn't have a uniform or anything, so I started to explain. "Hi, Margaret, right? You ordered," and she was really frazzled, I guess running the event, so she cut me off and was like, "Oh, good, you're here. We were starting to wonder. I don't think Bonnie has been matched with anyone yet. Wait right here." I tried to cut in and explain I just delivered the pizzas and she'd mistaken me for someone else, but it went right over her head. She pushed an old woman over in a wheelchair and said, practically shouting, "Bonnie, this young man is here just for you." Before I could try to explain my situation again, Bonnie replied, "He is? Is he? Well, full disclosure, son, don't get too attached, 'cause Jesus has my heart." Margaret, the one who had ordered the pizza, or at least the name we had on it, whispered to me, "She's a real live wire. Have fun." And then Margaret and my tip were in the wind. Margaret looked up at me and goes, "You like bridge? I hope you brought your checkbook," and started wheeling away to a table. I followed her, thinking I'd better not lose track of her until I could return her to Margaret. I spotted a woman with an ID badge who looked like she knew what she was doing and explained that I was the pizza delivery guy, but someone had left me with this old woman in my charge. I guess my explanation wasn't clear enough because I said something like, "Hey, I was actually delivering some pizzas up here." And the girl says, "You brought pizza? Aw, that's so nice. I'll make sure you're compensated." So at first I thought, great, all resolved now. But no, she gave me a wad of cash and this organizer disappeared, leaving me with Bonnie and her deck of cards. I kept looking for Margaret to return this lady to, but also did kind of enjoy making conversation with her and knew no other deliveries would be coming in since we had closed on my drive over. I actually did like listening to Bonnie talk about the YouTube theories that she wholeheartedly believed and the spat she was having with the arts and crafts chaperone and so on. She even gave me a recipe. But I was worried that she had dementia and thought I was a family member, or that she was expecting a particular visitor and at any moment a guy would storm in and say, "What are you doing with my hand?" or something like that. So finally, I saw the second organizer again, the one who'd given me the cash. I figured Margaret may never return, so I shouldn't wait for her, and I pulled the organizer aside and said, "Look, there's been a mix-up. I don't really know this woman." The organizer seemed distracted. She was doing several things at once, and she very casually said, "Oh, there's no mix-up. The pairings were totally random. You weren't expected to have much in common. You'll get to know her, don't overthink it," and receded back into the crowd while I was still saying, "No, I'm just delivering pizza." At that point, I seriously considered leaving because it wasn't my fault that these people were unorganized, but Bonnie was waiting for me with this huge grin on her face to play more cards, and it didn't look like there were any real relatives coming for her, so I figured I would stick it out for a few more games. I was eventually able to pick up in context from eavesdropping on other pairs that this was not a mother-kid extravaganza. It was a volunteer event for women living at the senior home without kids or whose kids couldn't visit them. There was a huge relief because I would have really felt terrible if she was a dementia patient who thought that her son had come, especially because I was kind of enjoying being mothered by her for a lack of a better term. It felt really good to have someone asking what I was doing at work and saying they were proud of me for things that weren't actually a big deal. She proudly bragged to everyone we passed on our courtyard walk about this silly little Employee of the Week award I just won. Basically title only. You get your photo on the wall, but everyone gets it at some point and usually more than once. But she made it feel really important. And I really secretly loved how she got outraged over minor transgressions on my behalf. Like, I told her how my landlord is staking it to me on repairs, and she was like, "He's quite the ripe hair in the tuna," with such sincere gusto. She said she knew a guy who could tune him up for me, and I don't think she was talking about repairs, but I didn't follow up. Every time I tried to extricate myself, she'd have another activity she'd want to do. Once we finished cards, she wanted to do arts and crafts. Once we did that, she wanted me to push her around the courtyard. Once we did that, she was famished from the walk, even though all she did was sit in her wheelchair and wanted pizza. And I'd fed her 2 slices before an orderly approached and angrily informed me she was not supposed to eat pizza. I don't know how she then ended up with a 3rd slice, but I seriously did not give it to her. Finally, the party was winding down and she wanted me to hang out and watch a game show with her. About 30 seconds into the show, she was asleep. I left her a coupon, even though I guess she isn't supposed to eat pizza, and headed home. It was kind of nice to spend a Mother's Day doing Mother's Day type stuff. Really nice, actually. At this point in my life and career, if you want to call it that, I can have no wholly good memories that involve pizza. But this was pretty close. So happy Mother's Day to those who celebrated, and happy Russian Victory Day to those who didn't. Speaking of pizza, what's your favorite kind of pizza of all time? Please let us know.
Hawaiian all day, bruh. Don't at me.
Literal Karen complains about her food being done right. So this happened on May 5th. I work at a Mexican restaurant and we were busy with waits of 45 minutes to an hour for to-goes and dine-in. I was on the phone taking all the to-go information down when I get a call. We've got me, male 19. Karen, probably the worst one I've ever seen. We've got manager, the awesome hero. Me. Hi, this is OP. How can I help you today? Karen, already mad.
I want a burrito with rice.
Me. What type of burrito, ma'am?
Why don't you know this? Do I have to say every little detail?
This is where I knew things were going to go bad. But I took her order down till she said something that I haven't heard in a while.
Don't forget about the side of lettuce and tomatoes this time.
Me. Ma'am, we've never done that at this location.
Yes, you have. You did it the last time.
Me. I can add that to your order if you want, ma'am. This goes back and forth with her trying to get more food for free till she finally stops. But then she has me read the order back to her 20 plus times to make sure everything was right. Karen.
You have always messed up my orders in the past.
She also asked for my name and says that if it's not right, I'm the one to blame, even though I don't make or pack the food. However, I was able to get her off the phone and send the order back. Fast forward 45 minutes later, Karen comes in to get her food. Karen.
Are you the one I talked to?
I was the only one up front at the time. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am. What was that?
Are you OP?
Me. Yes, that's me. Are you here to pick up your order?
No crap. Are you stupid?
I cash her out and hand her the food. She then proceeded to ask me the same questions that she asked on the phone, then went on a long rant about how we owe her this and that for messing up in the past. By this time, my manager came up front to see what was wrong. Manager. Everything okay, ma'am? Karen then blows up at her and wants someone other than me to see if her order is correctly done. So my manager looks through it, takes it to the cooks, and comes back and tells her it was done properly. Karen then says she deserves more free stuff for the struggles. Manager talking to me. Go grab her those things and I'll handle this. I go grab the things, and when I come back, Karen is gone and my manager is standing there with a smile on her face. She told me that she had banned Karen from our restaurant and said she was not only banned from our location, but all the other locations of our restaurant as well. While it was a long and tiring 11-hour shift, I at least got some amusement seeing Karen running off with the threat of the police being called on her. Am I the jerk because I told my friend that she deserved to be fired? My friend and I met when we worked together. She was one of the first people to talk to me when I started and introduced me to other people that worked there. Well, I'm not sure what happened, but she started to get lazy, showing up late, standing around to talk, which is whatever. But when other people have to pick up your slack, it's BS. When I was put on teams with her, other people would complain about her not pulling her weight. There were times we were trying to get finished and off early, and she still had a social hour and caused us to stay till regular time or even late. She was being talked to by management repeatedly. She'd tell me she got yelled at. Their big thing was her being consistently late. I told her to leave earlier. Well, I have to drive all the way from, it's a long drive. I tried helping her improve with other things they coached her on, but she had an excuse for everything. This went on for a year or so, and I found a better job and I left. She kept asking me to get her a job there, But since I knew how she was, I told her they weren't hiring. We'd hang out, and it was a lot easier not working with her. She'd still vent, but I wasn't on the other side of it, so I could be more objective and less annoyed. This has been 2 years. She called me the other day and said she got fired. I said I was sorry to hear that, but places are hiring and she can bounce back. She started going on and on about how this was out of the blue and how they've never warned her. I bit my tongue. I'm a supervisor now, so she wanted my opinion if I thought she deserved to be fired. I kept dodging the question and saying, I don't know, I'm not there anymore. She said, no, just be honest. What do you think? You worked there. I didn't want to, but I knew she wouldn't let it go. So I said, honestly, no offense, but yeah, they warned you like 100 times. I even tried telling you how to improve, but you wouldn't listen. She said I was too harsh, and she'd talk to me later. Am I the jerk? I probably am, but don't tell people to be honest when you don't want the truth. What do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is their friend? Please let us know.
Nothing's worse than coworkers who don't pull their weight.
I don't care what you are. You can't park in my spot. I'm a paramedic in a place that has some HOAs and apartment complexes. We hate responding to the apartment complexes because there's nothing but assigned parking and no fire zones. Basically, if we can't find a space to fit in, we have to block the road. My agency also uses first responder vehicles and ambulances. The first responder, as implied, usually arrives first, so we do our best to leave room for the ambulances to fit in. We get a call at the apartment complex. I am in the first responder. As I pull up to the address, by some miracle, there is a spot only 2 apartments away. Great, I can leave the road clear for the ambulance. As soon as I park, out comes this guy screaming I can't park there. I do the, "Are you serious?" look, and just say medical emergency. He says he doesn't care, I can't park there. Keep in mind, my vehicle has enough lights to make a Christmas tree jealous. I just grab my stuff, lock the vehicle, and keep going. He's screaming that he's going to call the cops. I tell him they're already on the way. They respond to medical emergencies. Cop gets there while I'm in with the patient and tells him basically to buzz off. The cop enters the apartment, and then this guy really goes full-blown entitled. He enters the apartment, comes into the room where I'm treating the patient. He starts ranting and raving how I have to move my vehicle. I look at the cop and say, "Get him out of here." The cop then seals his fate. She asks the patient if she wants this person removed from the apartment and did she ever give consent for him to enter. The patient responds, "Get him the heck out. He's trespassing." Boom, all clear. The cop gives him one last chance and tells him to leave or he will be arrested. He doubles down. "I am on the HOA board. I can go where I please." At this point, backup is called. The cop at least manhandles him out of the room. The ambulance arrives with police backup and they get him out of the apartment so he can safely remove the patient. Not entirely sure what happened next as I was in the back of the ambulance, but when I got out, one of the officers approaches and says, "Sorry, but we need another bus. We had to tase him." Policy for PD is if they tase someone, they have to be transported to the hospital by ambulance to the hospital as the taser spikes have to be surgically removed due to the barbs on them. Wait for the second ambulance, they take him and I go back in service. Found out a few weeks later he was charged with trespassing, assault, resisting arrest, interference with government administration, aka interfering with the scene of an emergency, all over a parking space that I would have been in for all of 20 minutes if he hadn't created problems. I can only assume he took a plea deal as I was never called to testify. Am I the jerk for telling my friend she ruined our vacation and shouldn't have come? Me, 24 female, and my 2 best friends, Jade, 24 female, and Rose, 23 female, recently went on a 2-week road trip that we planned a year in advance. That same weekend, Rose ended up marrying her now husband. It was on a whim. He's US Air Force, and they basically did it that quickly because he's deploying in June for a year, and after that, she can go anywhere with him. Jade and I asked Rose, since her husband is about to leave, if she would want to postpone the trip to the summer so she could spend more time with him. She didn't want to change the date. We left for our trip. Rose's husband sent her an emergency fund. 2 days in, one of our campsites was closed. Rose said that she'll just break into the fund and get a hotel. After talking for a minute about finding another site, Rose insisted on getting the hotel. In the morning, she sent a message to our group chat telling us what our share was. We reminded her that she insisted on getting the room with her emergency fund. She tells us that money is not totally for the trip and some of it is for other stuff. We paid our share. We didn't want problems. A few days later, we are near where Rose's mom lives. We planned to sleep there. Later on, Rose insists on getting a hotel, claiming she doesn't have the closest relationship with her mom. We reminded her about the last time she said that, and she pushed. She didn't say anything about cost in the morning, but instead, for the rest of the day, tried to get us to pay for stuff. When it was her turn for gas, she put in half a tank and claimed that the pump stopped on its own. When we ordered coffee, she said, "I'm with them." We let this go on for a couple of days before asking why she didn't have enough money. She claimed that she had bills that came out. Who doesn't save money for a trip they've been planning for a year? As it went on, she got worse. She was on the phone a huge chunk of the time talking to someone. When we were in nature trying to take it all in, she would act like she was in a rush. Eventually, she started making her phone calls in private. Jade and I asked who she was talking to and why it was so important to use up so much time during our vacation. She said that she was talking to B. Mind you, B is her ex, and the same person who, in the past, she cheated on her now husband with. Her husband thought that she had B blocked on everything, which is why he even married her. Rose claimed to me and Jade that B and her were just friends, and it was casual conversation. The next day, she told a friend on the phone that she was so mad with herself for coming on this trip when she could have spent time with her husband before he deploys, when we asked her if she wanted to postpone. Later that day, we found out that B and her were sending texts that they shouldn't have been. I blew up on her about everything. She cried and said that she's just scared and nervous about being alone, and because her husband is leaving, she's sad. I haven't talked to her since we got back. Am I the jerk for not showing more compassion? Quick edit. I even lived with both of these girls for almost a year, and I knew that Rose was immature, especially when it came to dating. But I had no idea she was this toxic until I was basically isolated with her in a car for 2 weeks. Edit 2. A lot of people are saying to tell the husband. Jade is actually doing it, since they are living with her until he leaves. I live hours away and prefer to do confrontation or adult conversation in person. Okay, I will ring you when I get in every day. Let me preface this by saying I've worked my current job for a decently long time and have never had a customer complaint until this guy. I work as a showroom consultant at a bathroom and kitchen shop. Nothing snazzy, but it's fun to talk to people and design with them. People are always happy and excited. This happened last year. One day, a lovely middle-aged lady comes in. She wants a spa bath that will fit her and her husband. We find one that's affordable. I give her a hefty discount because I can, and also she was a great person. I like to do that. I let her know because it's a custom-built spa, it's going to take 3 weeks. No stresses. 3 weeks later, the spa arrives. However, it has arrived without its headrests. The supplier lets us know that there's a back order on headrests. ETA unknown, lockdown shipping delays. They've supplied different headrests as an apology and will send the correct color when stock is replenished. Well, it's fine. It's just a cosmetic thing. I ring wife to let her know it's in. There's a delay and to arrange delivery. No issues. She's happy with her bath and even rings again to thank me. I ring once a fortnight to update them on the headrests. It's really unknown when they're coming. Now it's been over 2 months and it's a bit ridiculous. I acknowledge that, but there's nothing anyone can do. None left anywhere. Trust me, I tried. I like to help people out. We're just having to wait. In the meantime, there's nothing stopping them from using the bath. Heck, the spa came with headrests that were a different color as a courtesy. He was just waiting for a different color. One day, husband comes in. I'm not in the shop that day. He starts yelling and threatening, throwing his weight around, and telling us we only care about taking his money. And now that we've got it, we don't care, etc. He submits a formal complaint telling us we didn't keep him well informed or updated of stock issues. It's assessed. Yet again, he mentions he wasn't kept in the loop and we don't care. He says he wants to be told daily of the progress of his headrests as soon as I walk in the door because he is a priority. In true malicious compliance form, every day at 6 a.m., as soon as I walked into the shop, I would ring the supplier for an ETA. Then at 6:15, I would ring him. Good morning. Just ringing to let you know that your headrests haven't arrived. Have a great day. 3 months of daily phone calls, the shipping delay was over, and he finally got to change his white headrests to black. Yelled at for doing my job. I can't stand famous people. Hello again, friends. Friendly neighborhood PM lead with another story for you. So this week at my hotel, we have, I'd say, a B-list celebrity staying with us while they're filming a movie. For the sake of the story, he will be Jerk. As all celebs who stay with us do, Jerk's assistant sent us a list of Jerk's commands. I won't go over all of them, just the ones pertaining to the story. Jerk does not want stayover service. If he needs clean towels, he will come to the desks. He is very particular about his privacy. This was reiterated in multiple emails to both the sales team, front desk, and housekeeping. Every day at 5 p.m. sharp, yes, this was capitalized, Jerk wants 4 bottles of Fiji water, 4 bottles of Perrier, and a bucket of ice left outside of his door. Again, reiterated in multiple emails. So it's about 9 p.m. yesterday. I'm chilling at the desk, counting the minutes until I can go home when I get a call from Jerk's room. Me. Guest services, this is Forever the Unicorn. How can I help you? Jerk. Yeah, I've been here since Saturday, and none of your maids have cleaned my room. And why the heck do all these bottles of water keep showing up outside my door? Me. Well, Mr. Jerk, we were just following the request sent to us by your assistant, but I'm more than happy to send someone up to do stayover service for you right now, knowing it would either be me doing it or the engineering kid. Jerk. I don't know what stayover service means. Just have someone come clean this room. And I don't give a hoot what my assistant told you to do. You do what I tell you to do. Hangs up the phone. If there is one thing I just love, it's getting yelled at and hung up on. So, as I always do when I have no clue what to do, I call the GM. GM did not have a good day dealing with Jerk, so he was extra upset about what he just did. Being as late as I was, GM told me to just have the engineer go up and take out trash, and he would contact the assistant in the AM. Cherry on top of it all was that the head producer witnessed the aftermath of what had happened, me standing there in disbelief of the temper tantrum this grown man just threw, and asked me what happened. I explained the situation, and she was mortified, assured me that she would talk to him this morning when they drove to the set. I am now anxiously waiting the return of the Jerk and what will happen tonight. Musicians wake up at 9? This morning, I had a customer lose it on me over something that isn't true, as well as something I couldn't control. So I'm one of a few sales managers at a music store chain. Day to day, the most difficult things we have to deal with are the many heaps of paperwork and maybe a customer that needs a little extra TLC, nothing we can't handle. But every so often, as I'm sure you all know, in walks one of the unreasonable ones. The ones that have an idea so unbelievably cemented in their head, no verbal jackhammer can ever liberate it. If I had to break down our clientele, I'd say they're 75% reasonable everyday people who simply want to buy equipment and get out of there. 20% of people that come in and just want to try stuff out. They too are reasonable. 4% of people who feel slighted and demand free stuff. And that last 1% are the aforementioned, typically beyond crazy, unreasonable ones. So back to this story's muse. There's been this kid coming in every single day for the past week buying sheet music. He's been the first customer at the doors before opening. He always says hello, always buys something, always smiles, never an incident. He definitely had a bit of a nervous energy about him, but it didn't affect the day-to-day, so who cares? Today was different. Today he came in right at opening, and this was our conversation. Me. Hey man, morning. Guy. Are you a manager? Me. Yeah, what's up? Guy. You need to start opening up at 9. You open at 12, but you need to start serving musicians at 9, because that's when musicians get up. Me. Well, musicians get up at all hours. I, for one, am a musician, and I got up at 10:30 today. Then he suddenly starts to raise his voice. No. Your front door says, serving musicians since 1924. Musicians get up at 9 a.m., so you need to start serving us at 9 a.m. Me. Listen, man, it's fine if you get up at 9. What I suggest is, when you get up, maybe have some breakfast, and then come here at opening. Guy. You're not listening to me. 9 a.m., not 12 p.m. You open at 9 a.m. Me. Sir, I have absolutely no control over what time we open. There's a corporate decision, and that decision they made is 12 p.m. By now, he's fully yelling at me.
No, you're being stupid. You start opening at 9 a.m. because that's when musicians wake up and want to be served.
I'm so fully taken aback because his voice has never been above a 2 with his passing hellos. At that point, 3 of my coworkers come to see what's going on and immediately assess the situation. They fully get into defensive mode and tell him to get out right now. He starts yelling louder.
I'm gonna call the cops.
Me. Wait, actually, please do that. Then he said something that caught me off guard. Guy.
Forget you. I'm the master retailer. Forget all of you. I'm the master retailer.
The master retailer. Maybe we made a mistake of kicking out the master retailer, as he is apparently the master of retail. Nah, I think we made the right choice. Finally, we get him outside, and he truly tries to fight our guitar tech. Eventually, he buzzes off, and we're all like, what just happened? It all blows over. Literally, no one cares after he's gone, and the store opens as normal. 15 minutes later, the store gets a phone call. I pick up because it's almost always a customer because we're a store, and customers like to call stores. Me. Hello, this is our store. How can I help you? Cop. Hey there, my name is Cop. Did you get involved in a fight with a kid in a pink hoodie? Me. Oh, yeah. There was an incident a few minutes ago, but everything's fine. Well, I need to get your side of the story. I told him everything I told you guys here. He laughed at the, if you wake up at 9, maybe you should get breakfast thing. Then he asked if it was cool if he could come back, or if we wanted him to keep him away from the store. I didn't want any more incidents, so I tell him to stay away from the store. That was it. And now I'm done ignoring my manager responsibilities to type out this story for you guys. I gotta go and do some paperwork. Entitled Mom Demands I Pay Her Hospital Bills. Shortly after my 5th birthday, my dad found out that I was not biologically his. He immediately threw me and my mother out of his life, which now looking back, I can't really blame him. It would be a nightmare to raise someone who was a constant reminder of your wife cheating. Shortly after that, we moved from a mansion to a very small apartment, and my life has been absolutely lonely and horrible since then. The love that my mother had for me disappeared in an instant, and she and my half-siblings constantly blame me for being the reason for the divorce, have hated me since. I was constantly told by my own family, including my mother, that they all wish that I wasn't there and would have never been born and things like that. I try not to let my half-siblings' words get to me since they were kids as well, but it still hurts to this day. My mother married my stepdad when I was 10, and he and his kids, my step-siblings, have made it very clear that they didn't like me, and things got even worse. I was given the smallest room, no new clothes or things, and constantly ignored, if not being bullied by my family. Both my step-family and step-siblings went on great and fantastic trips and were given all of the latest gadgets and everything, while I was left behind. It actually came to the point where no one had wished me a happy birthday since I was 8 years old. I had no friends at school as well. I was that quiet kid who was always isolated and left out of everything. I, male, 27 now, managed to get a full ride to my dream school and am now financially quite secure. I now have very good friends and an amazing fiance with whom I have a 3-year-old son, and her family has adopted me as one of their own. My fiance also convinced me to go to therapy, for which I am very grateful as well, and I'm basically doing great in life and have moved past everything. Recently, my mother contacted me a few days ago, saying she needed my help. Money, actually, because she has cancer, and I firmly but politely refused her, saying that while I sympathize with her situation, it is not my responsibility and she should lose my number and never contact me again. I am now hounded by my stepfamily and even my half-siblings that I shouldn't refuse, and my response was pretty much the same, and I've blocked them as well. Yesterday, my mother called me from her friend's phone, this time ordering me to pay since she has sacrificed so much for me, to which I replied, "You never sacrificed anything. You gave away everything you had because you couldn't remain loyal," and hung up on her. I've blocked them all, and now I just keep receiving messages calling me a jerk, among other things, from new numbers, which I promptly block. But now occasionally I feel quite guilty. What my mother did was horrible, yes, but no one deserves to die for such things. So, Reddit, am I the jerk for refusing to pay my mother's hospital bill, even though it may lead to her demise? Well, what do you think? Should OP pay their mother's hospital bills or not? Please let us know.
This is what you call karma.
Mailbox revenge. This didn't start out as a quest for vengeance. We just wanted mail delivery to our house. Vengeance came as a byproduct, but it was truly delightful nonetheless. So, mailbox story time. This happened back in 1982 for the record. My family moved to a very rural area on a gravel road. No one had previously lived there, so it was a battle just getting mail delivery in the first place. My folks went several rounds with the local postmaster. He was somewhat enamored by his own power and very much a rules to the letter kind of guy. Every I must be dotted, every T crossed, and if there's so much as a semicolon out of place, you'll have to start all over again. He seemed to have made it his personal mission to make getting mail delivery to a new address as difficult as humanly possible. Ultimately, my folks managed to fill out the paperwork to his satisfaction, and he begrudgingly allowed us to put up a box and receive mail delivery at our new home. Dad was extremely careful in the placement of our box and making absolutely certain it was the exact height, precise placement from the road, etc., to avoid annoying our local postmaster any more than we already had. There are, or at least were, very specific rules about rural mailboxes. Dad followed every single one. That first mailbox was perfect. The man who drove the road grader was as annoyed as the local postmaster, as he now had a new driveway to accommodate. We suspect that's why he had it out for our mailbox. After the road grader had demolished 3 of our mailboxes, Dad got upset. Previously, he had used the most basic design, just a post in the ground with a box on top. Now he was motivated. Dad got a hold of a 9-foot-long section of metal pipe. It's 4 inches in diameter, outer measurement, and has 3/4-inch thick walls. I have no idea what this was originally intended for, but I know how Dad used it. He dug a hole 5.5 feet deep. He welded an upside-down tripod shape, think open umbrella, to the bottom of the pole and dropped it into the 6-foot-wide hole. Each welded-on leg was about 3 feet of some kind of rebar, and there were 5 such spokes. He then dropped some huge rocks on top of the tripod shape to hold it in place. The empty spaces around the huge rocks were filled in with gravel, and he dumped sand to fill in the air gaps. Then he filled the rest of the hole in with dirt and mounted the mailbox on top of the post. 3 days after Dad installed the new mailbox, we heard the road grader coming down the road. Our house is a 1/4 mile from the road, but we heard the loud clang from inside. We also heard the yelling from inside. No one went down to look until they heard the road grader drive away. When they did, the box itself was slightly dented on one side, but it was still firmly upright and functional. 3 weeks later, we received a bill from the township for a bent grader blade. It was accompanied by a letter informing us that we had caused damage to city property because our mailbox was installed incorrectly. It would need to be moved, and we were liable for a bill of a couple $1,000s worth of repairs. Here's where it becomes pro-revenge instead of petty. Recall the fact that the local postmaster was annoyed with us over our battle to get mail delivery? Mom had made a point of each time we reinstalled the mailbox, taking photographs down to the post office and having the local postmaster sign off approval of the height, placement, etc. She had done the same with Dad's superpost and had documented signed approval of the box, dated the day before the road grader had bent his blade trying to demolish the box. She submitted copies of the invoice for the grader blade and the letter stating that the damage was our fault because our mailbox was incorrectly placed to the post office. She also submitted copies of the official post office approval of the box to the township. The jerk postmaster was also quite prideful and became furious that his authority was being called into question by some podunk township. As far as he was concerned, the township wasn't questioning my parents, they were stating that his judgment was wrong. I don't know what went down between the postmaster and the township, but we received a second letter from the post office reiterating their approval of our mailbox. We also got a formal apology from the township and noticed that the road grader's contract had been terminated because he had lied about damage to city property. It was worded with a tone that said, "Please don't sue us because a contracted employee damaged your property." For the record, that post Dad installed nearly 40 years ago is still standing. We've replaced the box on top many times. That post, however, has now wrecked 2 cars and a truck in addition to that long-ago road grader. Am I the jerk for saying I'm broke as an excuse to not buy the things that I don't want? I am doing an engineering job, making a good amount of money, and I save a lot, so I'm definitely not actually broke. I sometimes act like I am, and it frustrates my boyfriend though. I'll give a few examples. A few weeks ago, I went to get some work done on my car. I called ahead, and the shop quoted me $150 for parts and labor, so I said okay and dropped off my car. Later that day, they called me and said that my car is ready to be picked up. But the job was way more complicated than expected, so the cost was actually $320. I told them that was more than we agreed on, and they were still being pushy. I just go, "Oh God, I'm so sorry, but I don't have the extra money. I called around to all the shops in town this morning and went with y'all because your original quote was the only one I could manage." The guy at the shop kinda hemmed and hawed, and I go, "Maybe you could take the parts back out. I'm really sorry, but that's way too much." He was like, No, I'll honor the original quote." So that was something I didn't feel that bad about, but my boyfriend said it made him uncomfortable to hear. Another time, we'd been trying to buy a new dishwasher, and the guy at the store just kept trying to upsell us like a bunch of different things, and I was getting frustrated having to say no 3 or 4 times over, so I go, "I don't have the money for anything but the dishwasher. No extras." My boyfriend said he didn't like how I lied. It makes him feel uncomfortable to be around me when I'm lying, because then he feels brought into a lie. But the big stressor was when he said an old friend of his was inviting us to a party to celebrate opening her business. We decided to go. I enjoy parties. I didn't realize that this business was, kind of a pyramid scheme, until we got there and the party wasn't just a party, but a push to get people to buy in. So I started declining stuff by being like, that's really expensive. I really didn't expect to be spending anything tonight, so it's really not in my budget. And, sorry, I really don't have $100 for that. His friends stopped trying to sell to me much, but it was a super weird vibe. It really wasn't a party where you could just hang out and talk and drink. Anyway, my boyfriend pulled me aside partway through and said I was embarrassing him in front of his friends, and he really wanted me to drop the broke act. I said okay, but I wanted to leave, and he took that as a sign I was being petty about what he had asked me, when honestly, I was just really not enjoying the not a real party. He's been kind of frustrated with me since, and when I got my last paycheck, he was like, "Oh yeah, real broke getting 10K," and I snapped at him to say to stop going on about it. Now I'm wondering if I was the jerk for using that excuse. My boyfriend thinks so. Am I the jerk for saying that I don't have the money when I honestly just don't want to pay for something? My boyfriend thinks it's uncomfortable and embarrassing and that I shouldn't do it. Well, who do you agree with? OP or their boyfriend? Please let us know.
I'd go for some malicious compliance. I don't want to buy from you because there's 100 better things I could spend my money on. Let's see how boyfriend likes that.
Millionaire X refused to cordially split finances. Several years ago, I, female, went through an abrupt divorce with my ex, also female. My ex is a heiress to a high net worth family in the publicly known range of 600+ million US. For 2 years prior to this split, she and I had been working individually and together with a money coach to help us communicate about money. The money coach was a trust fund kid in his 20s, like her, with a degree in psychology who specialized in helping young adults cope and comprehend the unique terrain of extreme inheritance and its impact on their interpersonal relationships. It's a ridiculously niche job, yes. In addition to helping us communicate across class differences, I found his guidance incredibly helpful in my personal development of financial literacy. Through his coaching and thanks to the concerned advice of mutual friends who recognized the unique financial power imbalance between us, we created a financial exit plan and safety net for us should we ever decide to break up. It was essentially an alimony agreement, since my ex didn't want me working for money while we were together. Fast forward a couple of years, and sure enough, she went on a prolonged vacation and decided she didn't want to come home anymore. We were living and working an unpaid medical residency abroad at the time. Considering she was subsidizing my entire life and residency abroad, I was not only heartbroken, I was super in love with her, but very concerned for my material stability. I booked a flight back to the States ASAP to try to salvage our relationship, and when I realized she had made up her mind, I accepted this and asked her to meet with our money coach together so we could get his support in sorting out the practical logistics of our separation and dissolution, what to do about the year-long lease in another country, not to mention our joint bank account. After one failed session, in which she claimed I was manipulative for having flown back without her permission, I had bought the plane ticket utilizing a credit card she had intentionally left in my possession and given Catch all permission to utilize. She canceled that specific credit card and refused to meet or communicate directly again. Via a mediator, I asked for the total amount we had agreed upon in our alimony agreement, and she refused. The amount was calculated to be enough for me to relocate back to the States and give me 6 months to get back on my professional income generating feet. She told the mediator she didn't want me living or working in the state we had been living in prior to our moving abroad, therefore she wouldn't be paying me out after all. I dug my feet in, naively believing she had become more rational and tried to negotiate, with no true leverage, for 6 months, after which I finally just transferred the alimony amount directly into our joint bank account and out into my own private one, tax-free. She called me a thief, but I reminded the mediator the account was joint, so this was legal, and besides, I only transferred the amount we had originally agreed upon. If she had agreed to participate in the final money coaching together, he likely would have encouraged her to close the joint account all those months ago. Instead, she spent an additional 4 months after that being pestered by petty bills from Airbnb to HBO to Lyft. I also paid for my therapist on her tab. My digital bills kept being charged to her cards, and she had such poor financial literacy, it took 10 months post-breakup for her to realize that my apps were still charging her myriad of other credit cards. She eventually contacted me to ask that I remove her cards from my apps. I told her it was best for her to cancel and reissue all her various credit cards since it wasn't my problem she had such a poor awareness of her money. The financial dissolution of our relationship took almost a year to complete and cost her an extra few $1,000s in inconvenient bills when we could have handled it like adults in a couple of days. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law I married her daughter and not her? My mother-in-law is a kind and funny woman, though she does have a few problems with boundaries and is a little too involved in my marriage, especially now that my wife is pregnant. My wife's family aren't well off financially, and it's the opposite with my family. My family owns a factory. I'm an engineer. My wife has a job that doesn't pay well, but she's happy with it. Every time I get my wife something nice, especially jewelry, I'd get a call from my mother-in-law complaining that she got nothing once she finds out, even if it was my wife's birthday or our wedding anniversary. Holidays and other occasions aside, she'd throw a fit about how I was treating her as less than. She always comes over, and when she notices a new piece of furniture or any other new items, she'd complain I didn't get her similar stuff. She sent a picture of a very expensive necklace that she wanted me to get for her for Mother's Day. I called her to ask about it, and she said that she had been wanting it for a while, and only I could afford it. When I told her I may not be able to get it, she replied that I already got my wife an expensive necklace on Sunday, and I can afford this one too. I didn't get her the necklace, and instead, I decided to get her some fresh flowers that I picked from my late mother's garden that I trimmed, organized myself, then put into a nice vase. We visited Sunday evening, and my mother-in-law kept smiling till it was time for gift opening. I handed her the flowers and talked about how much time and effort I made to put everything together. She was shocked and said she thought I loved and cared enough to get her something nice, just like my wife, who technically isn't even a mother yet, and she's been a mother for 32 years. I got annoyed and said that I did not appreciate her harsh response to my gift, but she argued with me and kept talking about how much she wanted that necklace and that I could afford it just like I was able to afford the one I got for my wife, but instead chose a thoughtless, crappy gift to give to her. That really upset me. I said that I married her daughter and not her. Of course I was putting my wife first, and it's crazy she thinks I'm obligated to treat her and my wife the same. My wife looked at me and was astonished. Mother-in-law replied that I was being mean and nasty to her on purpose and rubbing my financial stability in her face, treating her as if she was greedy instead of showing her appreciation. She went inside looking so upset she was almost crying. Then my wife followed her. Suddenly, everyone was staring at me. It was awkward as heck. My wife snapped in the car, telling me I was way out of line for making her mom cry on Mother's Day, and said that she will not let my attitude cause a rift between her and her mom. I asked if she agreed with her mom's demands, and she said no, but I went over the top and I shouldn't have spoken to her that way. She said I deeply hurt her mom's feelings and should apologize. I really don't want to ruin my relationship with my mother-in-law, but I'm worried that I just did. Edit. I saw a question about whether this was a cultural thing, and I don't know for sure. My wife's family comes from Venezuela, and my mother-in-law always tries to get me to learn more about the place she's originally from. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his mother-in-law? Please let us know.
Act like a Karen, you get treated like a Karen. She thinks you're some sort of a piggy bank.
I'm just here to help. Some time ago, my roommate, who was working for a high-end restaurant, told me that the workforce shortages were so bad that they were forced to close for the daytime services to focus on the nights. I was working just below full-time in another restaurant as a bartender, so I figured I could help a friend and get some karma. I met with the owners and managers and explained I was here to lend a hand. This is not my main job. I want to help for the time being. I won't be here long. I've got a trip planned in a few weeks. Don't stop looking for hires, etc. They said sure, no problem. We'll work with what we got. They were really nice and friendly until I got hired. I'll skip the part about my training because there wasn't. Not enough staff. You'll learn as you do it. No problem. I've been a busboy before. I could handle Friday nights of 350 clients all by myself at my first job, and if anything, I can simply ask questions to the rest of the staff. This restaurant only hires men for the service and the support staff. I thought at first that might be cool. It was not. Never have I met more snobby, prideful, better-than-thous, egotistical jerks. I've never been treated more like crap than those 6 weeks. I got yelled at for not bringing the correct frying pan. The correct one was wider by an inch. Getting told to work faster bringing multiple torpedoes up the stairs by a waiter who was actually waiting, arms crossed, chilling on the ramp. I got told stories of staff getting actual dishes thrown at them. The list goes on. During these weeks, I was working 6 to 7 days a week with both my jobs. The pay I was working with that side job wasn't even worth it, but I was still working hard, doing my best at every moment. I juggled shifts, took some whenever another employee needed it and I could manage, but never came in late, never quit, and never argued. I always responded with, yes sir, and it was the norm. But man, was that job taking a toll on me. Good thing my vacation was coming up. I had a big vacation planned 2 weeks on the other side of the country. Plane tickets bought, vacations cleared with my main job. When I reminded this side job about it, the manager said, "Remind me about it before I make the schedule. I'll try to see if it's possible." Yeah, I'm not asking for vacations. I'm telling you I won't be here for these 2 weeks.
Well, that just won't work. We might need you. We're short-staffed.
Yeah, I know, but I'm only here to help. I told you all of this when I offered you some help.
That just won't do. If you don't take this job seriously, don't bother coming back.
You're absolutely right. Thanks. I gave him my shirt, took my bags, and never came back. Best vacations of my life. Am I the jerk for asking my employees' parents to stop harassing him at work? I, 25, female, have an employee, 20-ish male. Let's call him Amir. Amir had a falling out with his parents and blocked them on his personal cell phone. Amir's parents have been calling our front desk while he's working. He will tell them that he can't take their calls at work and hangs up. They call back. If he screens their calls, they call over and over, tying up our phones. They will then call other people in the office, pretending to be a customer. They tell us that the person at the front desk is not answering the phone and is providing poor customer service so that we will go out and force Amir to answer. I talked to our IT department to see if we could block specific numbers on our phones, but was told that this wasn't an option. My boss, Amir, and I were in the process of trying to work out a solution to this mess. But before that could happen, Amir's parents came into our office and started screaming at their son. I made up some BS excuse to send Amir to the back of our office to work on a project to get him out of the situation. Once Amir had gone, his parents turned to leave. I stopped them and introduced myself as Amir's supervisor. I explained how it is our policy not to use work phones for personal calls. Also, that if they needed to discuss personal issues with their son in person, this was best done outside of the workplace. His father became angry and told me that he had every right to call his son on our phones because we are funded through tax money and he is a taxpayer. I explained that his tax dollars pay for our services, which he is welcome to use, but we cannot tie up our phones with personal family calls. His father then demanded that I force Amir to speak to them since I was his supervisor. I explained that it was not my business to get involved with the family matters of my employees. I told them that when he was on the clock, Amir was an employee and they were customers, and in this context, what they were doing was harassment. This touched a nerve, and his father blew up and started yelling in my face. He basically told me that he was going to go to the president of the organization to complain about me and get me fired. Then he and his wife stormed out. As soon as they left, a coworker came out from the back office and was livid. He told me that I didn't understand what it was like to be a parent and was angry that I told Amir's parents that they couldn't call him at work. This is literally our work policy. It applies to everyone, including myself and other coworkers. It goes way above my head. My coworker knows about Amir's parents calling him over and over at work and thinks that this is reasonable behavior given the situation. He then tells me that I should sit down with Amir and have a heart-to-heart about reconciling with his parents. I refuse, saying that Amir is an adult and it is not my place. My coworker now thinks that I'm the jerk. So, am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Amir's parents? Please let us know.
That coworker might be the biggest jerk of them all.
Apparently, I'm an undercover boss? So this was before lockdown started. I've owned and still own a few businesses around town, and due to me being an apprentice and working full-time as a carpenter as well, I usually let my friends handle them. One of my businesses is a small tennis shop and a tennis club where one of my closest friends manages it. So basically, I'm the owner who never turns up. Yes, I know, it sounds a bit dumb, but it is how it is. So my friend hired a new worker, which I've never met before, but I trust my friend's judgment. Usually he's very good, and I know basically everyone in the club as well. So after a week of holidays, which I took off for climbing and hiking with a few friends, I turned up at the tennis club to check out how it was running since I've been getting weird messages from the members of the tennis club saying they're getting ill-advised by someone. I already knew it wasn't my friend since I've taught him everything about tennis rackets, shoes, and clothing, etc. And apparently they're also being ripped off, which I do not like. Sure, I don't get a lot of money out of the members due to me giving discounts from time to time, but I work closely with the companies due to my father being a tennis coach and him having the connections with said firms. I run this business because I personally don't like playing tennis anymore, but I enjoy the business side, and my father is very passionate about tennis. So I arrived at the store, which is smallish, and make my way to the only office in the store until I get cut off by some tall guy who I've never seen before. I do know everyone by looks, but not by name, and everyone knows that as we usually always have a laugh, but this time I really didn't know him, so this is how the story went. Let's call the employee Brian. Me. Hello to you, sir. How can I help you? Brian.
Where do you think you're going, kid?
A little side note, I'm fairly young, 19 to be exact, but I started this business at 16 with my dad, and he basically gave me his share once I came of age, so yes, very young, but I've never had a complaint about it ever. I'm going to my office. Can I help you though? I told him and asked as I didn't know if he was the new employee. He scoffs and responds with an irritated tone.
Your office? Kid, that's the owner's and my office. You do not work here, and if you're not going to buy anything, get lost.
I was at a loss of words due to me remembering the fact of the complaints of the customers and him being the new employee. At least I was guessing at the time. I was shocked to say the least. We, my friend and I, strive to always keep our clients happy and to be civil and kind to all of our customers, no matter who they are or how long they've played tennis for. Suddenly, the door opened though, and due to me looking at this new guy, I didn't know who it was.
Ah, Mr. Wade, you're back from your break, I see. I was just about to throw this kid out. He was trying to steal and break into your office.
Brian responded to the person walking in. I then turn around, seeing my wide-eyed friend with his mouth agape. He then looks at Brian angrily. That kid you were about to throw out is my friend, boss, and owner of this place. You do not kick anyone out unless there's a good reason, no matter what, he angrily said as he grabbed both me and Brian and dragged us both to the office. Mr. Wabe, or Adam as I call him, was a big guy, around 6 foot or more. Brian looked about 5'9". Definitely taller than me though, since I'm only 5'6 to 5'7 and weighed a measly 110 pounds, so dragging me around is pretty easy. So the shortcut story here is that Brian got fired by Adam, and I apologize to all of our clients due to me feeling really bad about it. I'm never coming back because you won't give me a refund without a receipt. I manage a shop, and today a customer came in wanting to return his mod. I'll call him Angry Customer.
Hi, I bought this mod here and it won't charge anymore.
Me. I'm sorry to hear that. Do you mind if I check it out real quick? Me. This thing looks beat to heck. It was full of dents and the tank was cracked. Okay, so your charging port has loosened itself from the board. Unfortunately, we don't do repairs, but if you have the receipt or the card you purchased it with, I can get you a refund or exchange it if it was bought within the past month.
I don't have the receipt, but I have the card.
Me, runs card. It looks like the only purchase made with this card was not for this item. Could it have been another card?
No, it was definitely that one.
Me. Unfortunately, it's only showing one purchase and it wasn't the same item. Do you know when you purchased it? Main reason I asked is that I realized we sold the last of those mods months ago and our return window ends after 30 days.
No, I don't remember.
Me. Okay, well, I'm really sorry, but I can't refund or exchange anything without a receipt. And without an estimated time frame, I can't go back and manually find it.
So that's it? I'm just stuck with it?
Me. I'm sorry, man. It's company policy that we need proof of purchase for any returns.
You can't call a manager and ask them about it?
Me. I am the manager.
Alright, well you just lost a customer then. Thanks, but no thanks.
Me. Okay, have a nice night. Guess I'm about to lose my job and the business will go under because this guy isn't coming back. I don't know how I'm gonna sleep tonight, honestly. Karen, roommate, expects me to clean up after her. So I, 20 female, have been living with my current roommate, 19 female, in a 2-bedroom apartment for the past year while attending college. She and I got along well for the most part, have similar interests, and split costs evenly, at least at first. After a couple of months, she was unable to pay for her share of groceries. I covered her half a couple times, being sympathetic towards her situation. However, this has since spiraled into her expecting me to pay for all of the groceries every time. I have offered to help her find a job, to which she refused. On top of this, she routinely eats all of the snacks I buy for herself. Now this, she only washes the dishes she uses when she needs them again. At this point, I've been buying all of the groceries for months and have started to buy less because I need to save money for tuition. Because of this, she cooks less and instead orders out, only for herself, which is fine but important to note. Instead of using the money she spends on takeout for groceries, so the dishes just sit there for weeks and smell awful. Yes, I could wash them myself, but between my job and schoolwork, as well as all of the other cleaning jobs around the apartment that she now refuses to do, I just can't bring myself to do yet another thing she said she would do herself. I let her know, as politely as I could, that I couldn't handle her responsibilities on top of my own and thought the issue would be resolved. I have resorted to only cleaning my own room, the shared bathroom, and the dishes I personally use, instead of cleaning the entire apartment, including her room and the living room area she spends most of her time in. Now I spend what little time I am at home locked in my room because the entire apartment is trashed. I mean, it smells disgusting, and there's now a fruit fly problem because of it. She confronted me about this, asking why I don't clean or buy enough groceries for both of us anymore, and I'm honestly fed up. I told her that she can clean up after herself and pay for her own groceries. Now she's upset with me, still refuses to pull her own weight, and claims that she is overwhelmed and depressed. I also suffer from mental illness, and I understand that they can be debilitating, and that she may not be meaning to take advantage of me, but I don't think that's a valid excuse for her to walk all over me and the kindness that I've shown her. I gave her the number to the student counseling service just in case, and offered to listen if she wanted to talk. But I personally feel like she's using this excuse as a cop-out to get more favors out of me. I still haven't cleaned her mess or bought more groceries, and I'm still mostly in my room. But I'm at my wit's end and cannot physically or emotionally handle this behavior anymore. Am I the jerk? What do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is there a roommate? Please let us know.
I'd get a new roommate ASAP. You're not her mom.
Entitled parents have a slight meltdown in the ER. Some background. I'm a male RN and work in the emergency room of a medium-sized hospital. I mostly work nights. In Germany, you get more money when you work night shifts because the time and night shifts are longer than normal day shifts. We work 3 different shifts. Morning from 5:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., day from 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., and the night shift from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I've got some stories. At night, the crazy stuff happens. Oh, and this happened before lockdown. So that night, I worked at the front desk. So mostly doing admission of the patients, handling their healthcare IDs. We have universal healthcare. And well, just manning the reception. This was, I think, around 1 a.m., so the ER was relatively empty. At night, there are like 3 hours when something is happening, rarely. So yeah, I sat there, sipping my third cup of coffee and chatting with a fellow nurse. Then the entitled parents arrived. I didn't see them coming.
Excuse me?
There she was. A thing I only knew from the internet. A Karen. In Germany. Dang. She had the typical haircut and that "I'm better than you" vibe. In tow, she had a man. He seemed normal. Me. "Oh, sorry, how can I help you?" The perfect customer service smile. Karen.
Yeah. I searched my daughter. Her sister texted me that she is here. Her name is Daughter.
Me. Typing on the keyboard of the computer. "Ah, yes, she's been admitted here."
Well, then what does she have? Can I see her?
Now I have to explain. We've got some privacy laws here in Germany. So if you're legally an adult, 18 and over, you have full privacy, and without your consent, I can't give anyone any information. Not the parents, not the siblings, not the significant other, not the kids. So yeah. Me. "Sorry, I can't give you the patient's data. That's against the law." Karen.
We are her parents, and she's our kid.
Me. "She's 18, so she's an adult. Without her consent, I can't tell you anything, but I can call the doctor she is seeing and ask." Karen crosses her arms.
Fine, but make it quick.
Tapping her feet on the ground. Me, taking the internal phone from the desk and making the call. The daughter didn't want her parents there and denied them any information. That's her rightful choice. Me. "I'm sorry, but your daughter denied you any information." Karen.
What?
Meltdown is about to start.
I'm her mom. Bring me to her now.
Me. "Ma'am, please lower your voice. This is a hospital."
Yes, and I want to know where's my daughter. I'm her mother. She should share everything with me. Well, I don't need you to find her.
She then passes the desk and goes in the direction of the treatment rooms. Me. "Hey, you can't go there." I get reinforced with another male RN and a male nursing student and block her way. All this commotion has attracted the attention of the attending ER doctor. He stormed out of his office. Our night doc is a good doc, but well, he has a temper. Doctor.
What's going on here?
Karen looks smug.
Ah, good, a doctor. These men are blocking our way to see my daughter. She must be scared to be alone here, and we need to comfort her now.
Doctor, luckily not taking her crap.
So, OP, her daughter?
Me. Yes, she's here with Dr. XY. She's 18 and denied her visit and any information about her health. Karen.
Liar. Our daughter is 16.
Doctor.
Yeah, well, listen, lady.
Now he crosses his arms.
I believe this guy here slightly more. If you proceed to invade this space where only patients and staff are allowed, I'll have you escorted out. You can wait in the waiting room.
Husband, smug like his wife.
What will you do? Have the security throw us out?
Doctor.
No, I will do it myself if you don't leave this instant.
Karen probably sees that she has the chances of a popsicle in heck.
I will sue this hospital. I know the management.
She stomps out with her husband in tow. Doctor.
If she shows up again, call security immediately.
Well, lucky enough, Karen never came back that night. Am I the jerk for having an outdoor party when my neighbors had a reality TV film crew over, ruining their chance to be on TV? I live in a house that was split into 3 apartments. I've been planning a big party for months since my friends and I got the vac. It'd be a big backyard party. A few weeks ago, I told the other renters in my building that I'd be throwing a party in our shared backyard, and they were both welcome to come hang out and bring friends. They both took me up on it, and the plan for the party grew since between them, they were bringing an extra 10 or so friends. So overall, we were expecting 30 or so people over for an afternoon barbecue going into the night on Saturday. In the morning, some of my friends and the other people from my building and I started setting up my backyard, and a guy came over and asked if we could stay inside because they are filming. I said no, sorry, we have plans to have friends over, and we had to get ready. He got frustrated with us and said that their company had sent out a month's notice asking all of the neighbors to accommodate filming, and that he had heard back from everyone that it was okay. So my building mates and I were all like, we've never heard anything about filming. We really didn't know what he was talking about. I also told the guy that I do not want to be on camera, and my guests will not want to be on camera either. This wasn't just me being difficult. I and a number of my friends are in the cybersecurity industry and are actually bothered by that. He asked how many people would be over, and I said maybe 30. He said something about not being able to film it all in those conditions and having to talk to his manager. Before we heard anything back from him, a lot of our friends started coming in. Then another man came over and talked to some of my guests, but didn't end up finding me. It turns out he was the manager and was trying to ask us to be quiet and come inside for a while they filmed, and some of my friends were just like, I don't think that's gonna happen. And yeah, I think more people are coming and are not gonna fit easily inside. I didn't know he was there at the time. Me and all of my friends were way more focused on hanging out for the first time in a year. Anyway, the day later, the neighbors who owned the whole house next door came over mad at us because we ruined her family's chance of being on TV. They were going to be featured on some reality show as a family, but as soon as the producers realized that there was going to be a big party next door, with all the guests unwilling to even be caught on camera, they realized it was impossible. The show apparently didn't think it was worth the trouble to rescue after the wasted day on Saturday. She was also mad because the production company had talked to the landlord of our building, I guess, and he said stuff would be fine and that the tenants are quiet. I guess he must have just assumed we'd all be as quiet and indoors as we had been doing during 2020. Edit to add, this assumption is wrong. See the below edit about what my landlord actually said. Am I the jerk for having a party that ruined my neighbor's chance to have her family on reality TV? Edit to describe stuff with my landlord. I just asked him what was up. He got a call from a production company who said they were filming next door to his home and wanted to know if he was fine to get his property in the shot. He said yeah. They asked if he would be quiet and be accommodating of not getting in the shot. He said sure. He was out of town anyway. He didn't realize at the time, but it turns out the production company thought my apartment, which he owns, was his home because it is in his name and it looks like a house, not a rental property. And when they called asking about his home, he assumed they meant the house where he lives. The confusion happened because he lives on the same street and they referred to the street, but not an exact address. If you had the chance to be on a reality show, would you? And if so, which one? Please let us know.
I've always wanted to go on American Idol myself.
So I'm not getting the promotion you promised? Then I'm not doing the extra work. This isn't my story, but my wife's. She doesn't have a Reddit and said I could share her story with you lovely people. Allow me to set the scene. My wife, Harper's, official title is Mental Health Professional, or MHP, and she has been in this position for 3 years at a live-in care facility for adults with mental illness. Before that, she worked for several years on the mental health ward at the hospital, so she has had more experience working in her current position than anyone else they hired. Within the first year, she got 2 lifers to progress in their treatment plans so thoroughly that they both got the okay to move out into the sister program that has more freedom and independence. She was working with a 3rd lifer who was about to get ready to apply for the sister program when lockdown hit and the transfers between housing or even non-AMA releases were suspended. All this to say that she has made some very serious and positive changes for this facility from the moment that she started working there. They made her the lead MHP, and her direct supervisor's boss started giving her more responsibilities, like the morning team report for the whole facility, handling client money, making decisions on big changes to help the overall workload, etc. Her yearly review happened in December, which was promised to come with a large raise to reflect all the added responsibilities she has been gradually given. Of course, it didn't. She stayed on HR about her raise for a month or so after the review itself, until the big boss finally brought her into his office to discuss with her a promotion. It would be a bit tricky because she has her bachelor's in psych and social work, but not her master's, which we're looking on getting her back in school soon to complete, and which she needs to officially fulfill the job title they had in mind. Still, she was clearly leaps and bounds beyond her coworkers, often staying over to help clients or to finish paperwork, filling in wherever she's needed. So promoting her would be cheaper than hiring on someone new, and of course, this would come with an even better pay raise. So for the last few months, my wife has been doing even more for her supervisor's boss and the big boss. Anything they ask of her, dangling that official promotion over her head, constantly saying it would be a gradual transition and she needs to learn this or that, do this or that, to train for it. Out of her own pockets, she bought new binders and other supplies that made the various parts of her job and theirs easier. She planned, reorganized, filled in, whatever.
The supervisor's boss even told her verbatim, "I don't know what I would do without your help," several times. All this with the promise of an official promotion and a raise. Then it happened. Last week, Harper was tasked with sorting through potential new hires, as they had been hurting for more MHPs for some time, and the bosses had taken some of Harper's clients off her workload to make room for the new responsibilities. She noticed that of the stack she was given, all applicants had a master's or qualifying credential in social work. Worrisome. 2 days ago, it was business as usual for most of the day until about an hour before Harper was supposed to clock out. She called me in angry tears, ranting about the conversation she had just had with her supervisor's boss. He told her that she would unfortunately be taking on more clients and the promotion would be put on hold for the time being. She said he didn't come right out and say he had decided to hire one of the people with a master's instead for the position, but what he did say was, "You'll have to relinquish any added responsibilities and return to just being an MHP." Okay, bet. After trying to calm her down, I gave my normally frustratingly accommodating wife a nudge in the malicious direction. One of the first added responsibilities she was given was the morning report. It was her job to have all of the staff gather during the client's breakfast to relay what happened during third shift, the plans for the day, coordinating client appointments, etc. She would have to be in the facility before third shift clocked out to get their notes, and then plan a traveling and gas budget for all of the appointments, review any safety concerns or incidents, and this all added about an hour to her morning. So, how happy was she the next morning when she got to snooze her alarm and sleep in a bit longer? When she got to the facility at her usual clock-in time as an MHP, she said the place was already in chaos. A fight had broken out, and someone had some money stolen out of their room. All normal events for this place, but no one was exactly sure on the who or why, because third shift had no one to pass along the notes, so they just filed them and left. Of course, Harper knew where they had been filed, because she organized the filing system no one had thought to check. As soon as supervisor's boss saw her clock in, he asked why she wasn't there for the report. See, he's always a seemingly sweet and soft-spoken man, which made the sudden change of mind all the more surprising. Harper said she just stared him down, trying not to grin, and said, "I'm just an MHP. I can't handle the morning report." She then spent the rest of the day giving him the cold shoulder, relaying only necessary information to him while focusing on her clients and paperwork. I want to be clear. It isn't that they chose a more educated person for the higher position. That makes plenty of sense. It's that they promised her that position, spent the last few months transitioning her responsibilities to said position, promised her the pay raise to go with it, and then ripped it right out from under her. That's some underhanded BS. Oh, and since she isn't getting the promotion, she went to HR to see about her overdue yearly raise. She was told no one is getting a raise at the moment because of lockdown. Manager tries to make life difficult for me. Doesn't know, as per my contract, it benefits me. This happened a couple of years ago. I was working on a part-time basis in a small firm owned by friends. Pay was not very good, but the atmosphere was, and I was allowed to set my own timings, so life was good overall. Then a friend, whom I knew only through social media, approached me for a job in her company. Even though they were offering good money, I turned down the offer as I knew I could not get the benefits I was getting at my current job. Plus, the commute to the new office was very long. I would have to travel 2 hours one way and change 3 trains just to reach the office. A month later, the HR of the new firm approached me again. They offered me almost 4 times the money I was making, and I could set my own work hours. There was also extra pay for working overtime and on weekends. This was important. I joined the new company. My friends did not know the terms of the new agreement I had with HR. She used to act like I owed her big time for the opportunity I got. So one day I corrected her. I told her that I had turned down the offer she had been part of, and 1 month later I had had my own negotiations and I got much more favorable terms. So I was here because her company really needed me, and not because of her. I didn't share the details of my agreement with her, but we both realized that she was making significantly less than me. This totally changed her attitude towards me. Now she wanted me out, and I was determined to stick through for at least a year. So she decided that she would make it very difficult for me to work so that I quit on my own. There are a lot of stories I have about how she tried every trick in the book to make me quit. I'm sharing some of them here. She was my manager and was in charge of allocating work. Malicious compliance. 1. She started piling on work on me more than any other members of the team.
I was happy to comply. She did not know that as part of my contract, I would be paid 1.5 times the hourly rate for every hour I worked OT, and 2 times the hourly rate if any work was allocated to me over weekends or holidays. Every time she tried to ruin my weekend by calling me to the office unnecessarily, I happily complied. This continued till the time I left the organization and told her how much extra money she had helped me make. Malicious compliance too. After the long commute to work, I used to be hungry, so I developed the habit of stopping at the food court to pick up a glass of fresh juice and carry it with me to work. My manager thought that this way she could harass me without actually seeming to do so, so she sent a letter that bringing liquids to office was a hazard. Ironically, she used to have coffee delivered to her desk 3 times a day. Well, I pointed out that the rule applied to her as well, and if I couldn't have my juice, she couldn't have her coffee. She had to literally spend an extra unpaid hour at work every time she wanted her special coffee. Meanwhile, I was happy to leisurely sit in the food court, have my glass of fresh juice with some snacks, and then begin my workday half hour later than usual. You want me to tuck my shirt in? Sure, boss. Years ago, I worked at a certain big box pet store with employees in blue shirts and poorly maintained fish tanks. Back then, employees were required to tuck their uniform shirts into their khakis, with an exemption for pregnant female employees, which I was at the time of this occurrence. I worked the registers with my untucked shirt with no issues for months while I was preggo. When I was about 8 months pregnant and just a few weeks shy of going on maternity leave, we got a new manager that was painfully clueless and stupid. Isn't that always the way? So one day, this manager calls myself and the other main cashier, who was also just as preggo as I was, into the office with another manager as a witness to tell us that we are fine cashiers, but our uniforms are lacking. The other cashier and myself are just like, what? Because we both had our khakis, uniform shirts, and black sneakers. Everything was neat and clean, so we both had no clue what he was talking about. I ask him what he's referring to. He replies that our shirts have to be tucked in. The other cashier and I have both been with the company for a while, and we are both super familiar with the uniform policy, so she and I both object and let him know that pregnant employees are exempt from the tucking policy. He waves his hand at us and says that we are incorrect and that all employees must tuck in their shirts. The other manager there, acting as a witness, chimes in that we are correct, but clueless manager cuts witness manager off and says he knows what the policy is and that previous management was just being lax. They weren't. Pregnant employees were actually exempt. The other cashier and I shrug and leave the office to go tuck our shirts in. Clueless manager left for the day right after talking to us. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. We tucked our shirts in for sure, but if you aren't familiar with pregnant fashion, you essentially have 2 options for pants. Option 1 is using a belly band on your existing pants or using pants with a belly band attached already. A belly band is essentially a very wide elastic strap that goes around your baby bump to hold your pants up, which essentially puts the top edge of your pants at your ribs. Option 2 is to do the hairband trick, which is to take an elastic hair tie and loop it through the buttonhole of your pants and around the button of your pants. This gives you a few extra inches of waist room in your pants to accommodate the baby bump. Both options look absolutely ridiculous and are meant to be concealed under a shirt, and they only get more ridiculous the more pregnant you are, which we both were heavily pregnant by this time. For those unfamiliar, by 8 months pregnant, you're basically Violet from Willy Wonka with an internal Oompa Loompa kicking you in the bladder every 20 minutes. So we both emerge, waddle gloriously, from the back room where we tucked in our shirts looking absurd. I had my shirt tucked into my belly band, and the other cashier had hers tucked into her hairband closed pants. Clueless manager was already gone for the day, so he was not present to see our magnificent uniform compliance. He wasn't in for another 2 days, so he didn't see our dutiful compliance, but all of our customers and coworkers sure did. Our regulars asked us why we had our shirts tucked like that, and of course we obliged them and explained that our clueless manager insisted we tuck our shirts in to comply with the uniform policy. For 2 full days, and part of that first shift after clueless manager left for the day, customer complaints to corporate about our treatment rolled in, and coworkers called the employee hotline to report clueless manager. District manager is upset about the whole thing, which we found out on day 3. On day 3, return of clueless manager. He enters the store, sees the other cashier and myself with our beautifully ridiculous uniforms, and asks why we're dressed like that. You told us to tuck our shirts in. He gets red in the face and beelines to the office. He calls us into the office immediately and starts going off on us for not taking the uniform policy seriously. Mid-tirade, the district manager arrives, furious. She turned to us prego egos and nicely told us to untuck our shirts and head back out to the floor before returning to clueless manager and going ballistic on him for enforcing something that we pregos were exempt from. Turns out, clueless manager ruined district manager's day off because of all the complaints that came in about the 2 pregnant employees on how we were treated by him. The complaints weren't just about the manager, they were about the company uniform policy as well. The customers didn't know the real policy, and the employee hotline complaints as well. All of these had to be handled by the district manager ASAP because the sheer number of complaints in such a short time meant that the regional manager was breathing down the district manager's neck to resolve the issue. District manager forced an apology to us out of clueless manager and treated us to lunch. We also got our stools to sit on and the registers back. Clueless manager took our stools away because, if you can lean, you can clean. Clueless manager was sent back to HR training and fired shortly after for another similar violation. I was on maternity leave, so I didn't get to wish him farewell. Edit for those curious about the similar violation I mentioned. Clueless manager refused to special order a pin-backed name tag for an employee with a pacemaker. Our name tags were magnetic because young people don't have pacemakers. Clueless manager also refused to let this employee at least move the magnetic tag to the opposite side of his chest to at least not have the magnet sitting directly over his pacemaker, because this was not in compliance with the uniform policy. This guy was actually insinuating that this employee was just looking to make trouble and get special treatment over a name tag. Am I the jerk for exposing a neighbor as a liar? A couple of years ago, I needed to earn some cash, so I started offering tutoring lessons in English to kids in my neighborhood. This was before lockdown. One of the neighborhood moms, Clara, 40-ish, had asked me to tutor her son, who's 12, because he was failing behind in English. I said sure, told her my price per hour, and she agreed, and sent her son at the agreed date. However, her son told me that I was going to tutor him in maths and sciences. I texted Clara and asked her to come talk to me, but she wouldn't answer. Eventually, the kid had to go home. I told him I wouldn't charge him the time he stayed, but I needed to ask his mom to come talk to me ASAP. A few hours later, Clara arrived at my apartment fuming because I hadn't tutored her kid. I told her that I was an English tutor. I had no intentions of tutoring anyone outside of that subject. She threw a fit about me not catering to her needs. I told her that she needed to find a proper tutor for her kid. She just left as angry as she arrived, and I left it at that. Fast forward to this year. I began offering tutoring lessons again, but I noticed that the kids from my neighborhood wouldn't ask me for lessons. I still got other students through some of my parents' contacts, but it kept me thinking. Then I learned through my nail tech, Gabby, that there was a mom's WhatsApp group. I had no idea because I'm neither a mom and my mom has no kids of school age, which were the requirements to be part of it. And in that group, Clara started talking bull about me as soon as someone had mentioned that I was offering tutoring lessons again. She would say that I refused to tutor her son and that I secretly don't like single moms. I know it sounds ridiculous. I myself couldn't believe it until Gabby showed me the text. I asked Gabby to add me to that group, and she did, and I immediately sent screenshots of my conversation with Clara and sent a text explaining my conversations with her and her son. After that, I put down my phone and focused on getting my nails done. When I looked at that chat again, I had been kicked out. Gabby showed me that Clara was frantically trying to pin the blame on me, saying that the texts were fake, that I was set on destroying her reputation, that I was trying to destroy her family, etc. Basically, she was throwing a tantrum. Some moms sided with Clara and sent me texts about me being an awful person to put Clara through that, and others apologized for believing her and asked me if I was still available for tutoring lessons. My mom told me that even if I was angry and what Clara did was wrong, I shouldn't have exposed her in the group chat, that I should have texted her privately and have her apologize to me directly, which I doubt would have happened. Still, I'm having second thoughts about how I handled things. Am I the jerk for exposing her as a liar in the group chat instead of talking to her privately? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Clara? Please let us know. My entitled mother ruins my high school graduation. I graduated high school back in 2010, so I try to remember the best I can. I live in Texas, but lived across the border to Mexico, because to be honest, it's way cheaper to live over there when you're making money here in the US. My high school graduation was in the middle of June, which is the hottest days of the year.
Imagine having to dress nicely for a graduation to be done in the middle of a football field on a scorching summer day. I had told my mom about this, and she still wanted to bring my now 4-year-old little brother to the graduation. Since I was busy with all of this, I told her to invite our family to this. This meant my uncles, aunts, and especially my grandparents. She said she did, but since I was busy with the whole graduation and enrolling into college, I believed her. The day came, and she didn't tell a soul about my graduation. She just told me everybody was busy and to deal with it later. Since graduation was going to start in a few minutes, I just had to suck it up. Turns out she didn't tell anyone because she deemed this to be our family matters. After almost 3 hours in the heat, the graduation ended and my mother was nowhere to be seen. My friends were inviting me to their graduation parties and I wanted to get my mom's permission for this, so I called her. Me, "Hey mom, where are you?" Entitled mom,
Oh, I went to get the car early so we can avoid traffic.
Me, thinking this is perfect so I can tell her I'll go hang out with my friends at a graduation party so she can get back.
No, you can't. We need to go back home since they are saying there's cartels fighting each other and it can get ugly and we need to get home and be safe.
I told my friends about this, and sadly, I did not go to any graduation party. When I got into the car, I noticed that there's Chick-fil-A in there, and I'm confused as to why it's there since we didn't get any on our way to my graduation.
Oh, your brother was getting fussy because of the heat and hungry, so I took him to Chick-fil-A.
I was mad, but maybe she went like after they called my name since they were going in alphabetical order, and I was one of the first ones that got called. That way, she could get a picture of me being handed my diploma, and she said something that to this day, I hate her for it.
We left 20 minutes after it started.
OMG, did you seriously miss my graduation for this? Me, what the heck? At least did you bring me anything to eat? Entitled mom.
No, here's some leftover chicken tenders from your brother.
I assumed she was going to take me to a nice restaurant and I would meet my other family there. Nope, we went straight home and I didn't even eat dinner. I felt so ashamed and unappreciated that I just went to my room, closed my door, turned off my lights, and cried myself to sleep. Yes, I don't hate to admit it. I was an 18-year-old male that cried himself to sleep because his entitled mom made him feel like his life was not worth 2 craps, in her books or anybody else's in particular, and pushes me into a spiral of depression and self-loathing. Karen demands we start selling her homemade vegan meatballs. Way back when I was running a small cafe in a wee seaside town for what was supposed to be a month, it turned into 9 because of complications with the owner's surgery, but it was mostly fun, fine, and a little eye-opening. Until Karen. Karen had decided to make her own business from home selling vegan meatball type things. Good for her, but we made everything in our kitchen and cabinets ourselves, and we were proud of it. She would not accept this as an answer and actually threw 2 of these meatballs over the counter at me to give to the owner. Side note, I knew now why my friendly waitress called me from the back to deal with this woman, and the owner at the time was on a liquid diet in the hospital. After assuring her I would pass them on, she demanded the owner's personal number, which there was no way in heck I was about to give it to her. Karen argues and argues, and then argues a bit more, getting a bit louder in the process. Finally, I tell her, "What about your rude BS attitude makes you think we'd even consider working with you?" As she was standing there with her mouth open, I see tucked under the till was a single blue card. One of our not used in over a year business cards that had been discovered in an old folder a few days earlier. I hand that over without a word, and Karen snatched it like a kid and stomped out and waited by our wall-length windows. The look on her face when I answered the call from inside the shop was the best part of the week. I'd already said she wasn't getting anyone's personal number, so why she thought I had broken and given her anything other than the shop number was beyond me. Not the owner, not an employee. So, first time making a post. To kind of give people a picture of myself at the time this happened, I worked for the state, dealing with public benefits and assistance, SNAP, Medicaid, and things like that. I'm 6 foot 2 inches tall. I used to be a powerlifter, and I weigh 340 pounds, so yeah, I'm a big guy. The dress code for the state is business casual unless you're working at the central office for a public-facing position. I worked on the phones 90% of the time. On the day in question, in 2018, I was wearing the one and only suit I own, being the size that the suit is tailored. Now this was a few years ago, so some things will be paraphrased as my memory is faulty. Few too many blows to the head in my youth. I DM for a Dungeons & Dragons game every Thursday at a friend of mine's house. I was in my late 30s, and as I was leaving work, my friend GP called me and asked if I could pick him up some new dice, as his 3 dogs decided that his dice looked like treats. So I hit a local game store on my way to his place. While I was there, I noticed a frustrated young lady trying to convey something to the owner. She was using ASL, American Sign Language, the only other language I understand besides English. I tapped her on the shoulder and signed to her to see if I could help her out. She explained that she was looking into getting into Dungeons & Dragons with some of her deaf friends from school. So I asked her some questions and found that they have never played, but due to the success of Critical Role, they want to try, and she is going to DM. I help her get everything she will need for new players, and she was just so happy that someone could help her out using American Sign Language, and that she thought it was really thoughtful of the owner to learn. I explained to her that she had been working with the owner when I got there, and that I was just an avid Dungeons & Dragons fan and DM myself, and that I was just stopping in for some dice. She looked at me confused and signed, "So you don't work here?" "Nope, just wanted to help since I know sign language." We laughed. So back to getting dice. That's when Karen striked. She starts yelling at the owner of the store, wanting to know why the owner was spending all of his time helping the cute young lady, but would not be bothered to help an elderly customer who just wanted to get her grandkid a video game. This game store does not sell video games. Now let's paint a picture. Karen here is about 5 feet tall, standard Karen haircut, and maybe 240 in weight. And in her early 40s, if she has a grandkid that can play video games, some poor choices may have been made in her past. The actual owner of the store said I help people that come into the counter, and if they need help with something out on the floor, I help them as best that I can. Then Karen points at me and says, "No, I'm talking about the owner." The actual owner of the store and I look at each other, and at the same time say, "Lady, I/he does not work here, and I/he is the owner, and the place does not sell video games." We smile at each other. This is where Karen explodes on why does a game store not sell video games, and what is she going to do now? She waddles over to me and starts poking me in the chest, ranting something along the lines of I should be nicer to older customers, and they are the ones keeping my store open. At this point, I pull out my state employee badge and point at it and say real slowly, "Lady, I don't work here. And you can go next door to insert name of big box store that rhymes with Dred Myers." I then explained that by state and federal law, by poking me in the chest, she was guilty of assault. At this point, she sputtered and then slapped me. When I started to talk again, she slapped me again. At this point, I got ticked off, stood to my full height, and yelled at the top of my lungs that if she touched me one more time, that I would defend myself and she would not like the results. At this point, the owner has called the police and has the phone on speaker. We all hear when dispatch states that the officer is 2 minutes out. She screams and then tries to get me again. I stopped her, spun her around, and held her in place so that she couldn't get me again. This is when the police showed up. Now, when you have a guy standing a foot plus taller holding this screaming lady at bay, cops are automatically going to think that you are in the wrong. Officer 1 is a lady, Officer 2 is a guy. Officer 1 comes in first and sees this and says, "Sir, please let go of this woman." I said I will as long as she won't hit me again. Karen starts going off on how I had hit her and that she was just defending herself and that I needed to be arrested. Officer 2, hearing this, pulls his taser and says, "Man, you need to let her go now." I let her go and raise my hands to my head level. Karen spins around, kicks me, and then slaps me again. The owner of the shop says that's the 3rd and 4th time that she's assaulted me. Officer 1 then places Karen in cuffs and escorts her out to the car. Officer 2 is a short guy, about 5'8" tall or so, still pointing the taser at me and wants to cuff me. I explained that was not going to happen, as my wrists are too big for his cuffs and that he would need zip cuffs. And then he needed to call a sergeant if he was going to actually try and arrest me. Officer 2 steps back and says, "Are you resisting arrest?" I said no, but I will be exercising my rights to a lawful investigation prior to arrest. You know, innocent until proven guilty and that jazz, as I was the one defending myself from that screaming Karen your partner just took outside. Now, if you want me cuffed while you determine what's going on so you feel safe, I fully agree to that. I'm just explaining that my wrists won't fit in your metal cuffs. Officer 1 comes back in and says that Karen has been detained and is demanding a supervisor. The store owner pipes in with his side of the story. Officer 2 still pointing a taser at me and explains that Karen assaulted me twice and was in the process of assaulting me a third time before I had restrained her. At this point, Officer 2 puts his taser away and then jokingly asks if he can see if the cuffs really won't fit. I hold out my right hand and he pulls out his cuffs and is like, "Dang, they won't fit." For everyone's information, minimum inside perimeter of the bracelet is 7.9 inches, 20 centimeters, when the ratchet is engaged at the first notch. The maximum perimeter is 6.5 inches when the ratchet is engaged at the last notch. My wrist is 10 inches around. Officers 1 and 2 were both amazed that the cuffs would not actually fit me and that even if they did, due to my size, they would not be able to cuff me behind the back. At this time, the sergeant shows up. He walks in and sees me and says, "Hey Rusty, long time no see." Me, "Hey Sarge, how are things?" Long story shorter, Karen was arrested for assault and heck yes, I pressed charges. From what I was told by Sarge, this was her 12th incident of similar issues, but the first time that she had gotten violent with someone. Wow, that guy sounds huge. Who is the biggest person you've ever seen in your life? Please let us know.
Your mom got him.
Entitled Mom thinks I should give my diabetic snacks to her daughter. So I'm a type 1 diabetic, and in the morning I went out for a bike ride. As I'm a diabetic, I always bring snacks with me in case I get low or get hungry. I bring a juice box, a few glucose tablets, 2 fruit chew bars, and 2 granola bars, just enough for me to be able to correct my blood sugar twice and have a small snack. As I was biking home, I passed someone sitting on the ground who looked like they were kinda distressed, so I pulled over to ask if they were okay. The guy was a little younger than me and told me he was a diabetic and showed me his medical alert necklace. He explained that he had gone low while biking but forgot to refill the snacks in his bag when he had left, so he was trying to figure out what to do. No one to bring him anything, but didn't want to call an ambulance over this. I offered him my snacks and to sit with him while we waited for it to go back up, explaining that I was a diabetic. After I had just sat down with him and given him the tablets, a woman came over and asked for my juice box for her daughter. I explained that I was giving him what I had because he was a diabetic and had low blood sugar, and I needed the rest to ensure I could get home safe. She started to tell me that she and her daughter had been biking for a few hours and she was hungry and just wanted my juice box and a granola bar. I asked if her daughter was diabetic and she said no, so I apologized and again explained nicely that I need those for myself. The conversation that followed is as such. Entitled Mom:
So why did you give him some?
Me: because he's a diabetic and his blood sugar is very low. For reference, our blood sugar is supposed to be between 4 and 8, and his was at 2.3.
Do you know him?
No, but as a diabetic, I know how dangerous lows can be, and if I was in his position, I'd hope a fellow diabetic would try to help me.
So, you don't know him?
The conversation continued like that, she asking why I cared if I didn't know him, and me giving the same explanation, until the guy rechecked his blood sugar and it was back up to 3.5. As this was still a little too low for both of us to feel comfortable, I grabbed my juice to give it to him, and this is when Entitled Mom tried to grab it out of my hand, saying that if his blood sugar was still low, I should just call him an ambulance, and then I could give my snacks to her and her daughter. At this point, I was honestly kind of upset and told her to buzz off, and that as a mom, she should have thought to bring snacks for her daughter, and if I hadn't gone by, what would she have done? She went red in the face, called me a jerk, and stormed back with her daughter. The guy's levels went up and we parted ways, and as I started to bike away, I heard Mom shout after me, calling me a jerk again. Karen is taking advantage of my online baking business. I, 24 female, started this small online baking business almost 3 years ago. I'm currently pursuing an advanced degree and have given all the rights to my older sister, who's 27. We are officially registered as a bakery in our town. I am responsible for updating the monthly calendars and editing photos that are being posted on our Instagram and our Facebook. I'm in charge of the PR, so I have access to both accounts. I noticed that we had a regular customer who frequently orders our French macaroons. No big deal. Then I got a little sus when she started asking for specific colors while sending cake inspos.
When I did a little digging, lo and behold, she has her own online cake business too. She was also using our macaroons on her cakes, repeatedly. At first, I was like, huh? This isn't new. I asked someone else to properly credit us, and we got tagged repeatedly for the macaroons we made. It was so simple, so I messaged the said customer and asked the same thing. The customer agreed. Well, I just discovered that what this girl did was literally tag us in a single photo. We don't pop up at all on the caption, no mention of our name alongside the macaroons that we made. We can't even share it. It was pretty obvious that she didn't want us to have any association with her cakes. To be honest, my sister's macaroons were the reason her cakes look well made. This is probably no big deal for you guys out there, but this is a small town, and only my sister and another local bake shop make them. They're pretty difficult to master. I got upset as heck when she recently posted a photo of her latest menu featuring our macaroons. It literally says 6 pieces macaroons on her cakes. That's the quantity that we sell. I saw red and immediately typed this message. Hi ma'am, we saw your posted photos and I think it's a bit unfair to advertise that you include 6 pieces macaroons on her cakes. But nowhere did it say that we bake them for you. Albeit unknowingly and without our permission, we had to do our own digging. Those are our shop's macaroons. You are willingly deceiving your customers by purposely omitting that another small local business produces these high-quality baked products for your cakes. See first photo equals her menu. So if you're going to continue using our French macaroons for your products permanently, it is only right that you place our name alongside the macaroons each time you use them. 6 pieces macaroons by our shop. For example, see second photo, a customer/baker who featured our name and product on her post. A good baker knows how to properly credit the local businesses that she employs. It's a small thing, but very thoughtful nonetheless. I hope you will do the same for your future transactions with us. My sister thought I was being rude, but I told her that I was just being stern. Her point was that our product is no longer ours once she puts it into her cake. I told her that it's different when it comes to baked goods. She's literally taking credit for her, sister's, hard work. So, am I the jerk? Edit. Forgot to say that every time we get credited on our products, they get thanked plus shared on our page for exposure. It's how we support other local businesses. It's common courtesy. Well, who do you agree with? OP or the cake maker? Please let us know. Now I really want some cake. It's difficult to say you don't work there when you are clearly working there. This incident took place about 10 years ago or so at my favorite pub next to my college alma mater. I had been going there about 3 years at the time and had gotten along extremely well with the staff. I'd stop almost every day after work to wind down. I work in the steel industry 4 minutes away. This takes place on a Saturday, and unbeknown to me at first, the same exact day a huge tailgating extravaganza is going on near the stadium for a huge rivalry game that is to take place in the afternoon. I had just gotten off work and wandered in and found my favorite spot at the bar, and as I sat, I started seeing more and more folks filter in. Older people, younger people, kids with parents, and of course, college kids. I'm around 38 at the time. Most of the older people and families stayed away from the bar to order food before the big game at the tables. Their pizza was good. Most of the college kids started to gather around the bar and gather and gather and gather. Within 30 minutes, the bar portion itself packed 3 to 4 people deep, all getting drinks and shots and whatever else they needed. It is a madhouse, so with only one bartender, Missy, yeah, that's her name, and I think one bar back, they are getting overwhelmed. Then it happens. A full, fresh beer and shot are shoved down in front of me by Missy, and she says, "Mr. Majorly, dishes, now!" before she goes back to serving the mob of college football fanatics. I glance down to where the glasses are normally, and it's empty, nearly 100%. I guzzle some of the beer, slam down the shot, roll up my sleeves, and walk behind the bar to where the sinks are. I'm pounding out these dishes through 3 different sinks. Suds and water are flying everywhere. And of course, that's when it starts. Jerk 1. "Can I get a beer and a shot?" Me. "Sorry, don't work here," as the water splashes in my face. Jerk 2. "Can I get some wings and a beer?" Me. "Talk to Missy, I don't work here," as I'm stacking clean glasses. Jerk 3. "Can I get a round of fireballs for friends?" Me.
stacking 16-ounce wet glasses in a cooler to frost. Sorry, I don't work here. Jerk 3. What? Yes, you do. Nope, I'm getting free drinks to do dishes. I need that gig. Can I at least get a beer? Me. I don't know what tab is what. Gotta wait for Missy, as I jump down to the end and start to move more glasses. This same exact scenario plays out every couple of minutes as people wade in from the back to the front, over and over, at least 40 times. Finally, the game is about to start and the crowd starts to slowly filter out after an hour. I'm caught up and lean back to take a breath and stare at my shriveled up hands. Missy runs into the back to get some last-minute food order, and there it is, a finger snap. I look over and some young college kid is getting my attention. Let's call her Karen. Karen. One more shot before I go. She's slurring badly. Me. I don't work here. Sorry, I was just helping with dishes. Of course you do. I think she hiccuped. Just get me my shot so I can go, old man. As she slaps down a $5 bill. Me blinks repeatedly. Nope, this ain't happening. I lean forward from where I was resting, grab a double shot glass, and set it in front of her. Grab her drink choice and fill it to the brim. As she reaches for it, I pick it up and slam it down in 0.32 milliseconds right in front of her. She's just sitting there staring at me with half rage / half bewildered look. Me. You're drunk and cut off as of this moment. Take your money and kindly leave. I hope you have fun at the game if you remember it. As she was trying to speak, I just pointed to the door. Defeated, she staggered out. I finally got to go back and sit at my seat and relax. I never did tell Missy. Glorified manager wants job security. So I work in the tow industry as a dispatch supervisor for a company that specializes in heavy equipment moves and trailers on top of regular tow industry stuff like tire changes, boosts, and lockout services. I have a manager who we'll call Jeff. Jeff is a rough and tumble sort, a friend of the club, if you catch my meaning, and is more likely to yell and scream rather than commit to the customer service part of the job, which is my specialty. But that also extends to how he treats his employees. My way or the highway. Well, Jeff seems to have this idea that he is the only one who can quote customers on either long distance, heavy equipment, and trailer transports. He's not. For the record, every single dispatcher we have is perfectly capable of quoting the correct prices and booking calls, seeing as we do this every day that he's not around. But still, he gets up in arms and yells if we take calls and set them up without his involvement. He's been with the company 40 years, so he's embedded, but literally does the exact same job the dispatchers do and sometimes drives a truck to help out on the road. One day in particular, I take a call and quote the customer. Jeff loses his crap, starts flipping out about how he's supposed to be taking all those calls, and from this point on, I am to direct every call about heavy equipment, trailers, or long-distance moves to him so he could retain his large salary and job security. I don't think he really thought that one through, so malicious compliance it is. After the end of his shift, send him a message with the name and number of the caller. Weekend, send him a message. Middle of the night, send him a message. He's on vacation, send him a message. Camping, send him a message. On a ride with his brothers, send him a message. As one would imagine, he couldn't keep up with the demand, and as a result, we started to lose sales, constantly forgetting things, and customers would go elsewhere. Eventually, the boss hears of it. He's normally a pretty hands-off type of boss. He signs the checks, sure, but most of the time he's out on his boat ignoring the world. Boss calls him in to find out why he's been so off, and manager attempts to throw me and my team under the bus. So I talk to the boss, explain exactly what was said. Thankfully, the boss has known him for 40 years and knows what he's like, so he understands completely and has a big chat with him about it. Result? He's no longer allowed to monopolize handling the calls for the lion's share of the business, and our team of experienced dispatchers now no longer have to involve him in every call for service. Jeff generally avoids me now at work. I'm fine with that. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that my dad isn't interested in her anymore? My mom and dad have been separated for 26 years. Their separation ended badly and resulted in her getting custody of me and my brother. My dad went down a bad path in life and chose not to see us when we were growing up, so I knew nothing about him. It wasn't until I was 18 that he had regretted it and wanted a relationship with us. I always wanted to know my dad,
So I agreed, but I had asked my mom if she was fine with it and asked if she would go with me, and she told me she was and would go with me. The first meeting ended up really well, except my mom kept throwing in his face that he left us. I had asked her to stop because it was making us uncomfortable. That's when she got upset and started telling my dad horrible stories about me. I really didn't know how to react. I was dumbfounded. So when we left, I asked her why she'd tell him stories about my past, and she told me that he needed to know. My dad and I made an agreement that we would see each other at least 3 times out of the year since he lives a bit away from me. My mom insisted that she tag along. It wasn't an issue, but my mom tends to dictate what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. She also spends over 5 hours putting on makeup to impress my dad and expects us all to wait for her. Then, when we talk about events in our lives, she tends to always talk badly about me. She's even gone as far as to make fun of my anxiety, claiming I don't have it and I'm just a good actress to my dad. Whenever me and my dad end up in conversation, she acts almost jealous and tries to talk over me the entire time. At one point, she's gone as far as to email my dad lies about me, saying not to get too close to me because I'm very jealous of his relationships with my family and I was manipulative. I'm really not sure why she does this, especially since all I was trying to do was have a bond with my father. After years of her constantly putting me down to my dad, I had enough. I had graduated from college and we were out celebrating me getting my degree. I asked my boyfriend if he could order my food for me because it was too loud and I have a soft-spoken voice, so the waiter couldn't hear me. My mom decided to make fun of me in front of my family and boyfriend, then proceeded to tell my dad, who attended my graduation, that he cursed her with a daughter like me because I was so weak. At that point, I just saw red because my celebration was ruined, so I got up from the table and yelled, "At least I'm not trying to constantly chase and impress someone that doesn't want me anymore by bringing my kids down," and walked out of my own party. My mom didn't talk to me for weeks, and my family says that I'm the jerk for hurting her feelings. I felt bad about how things went down, but I also don't feel like I was entirely wrong either. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their mom? Please let us know. Homeless ex-neighbor keeps showing up at our house, has told the neighborhood kids he's going to move into our backyard. So, this guy lived in the same house, duplex, did not live with us, as us for a couple of years. The entire time we've lived here, his roommate has been trying to get him to move out as it's a 1-bedroom among other things. He's not on the lease, blah blah blah. 2 to 3 months ago, our neighbor put his foot down and gave the guy notice to move out, paid for a motel for a week on top of that for him. After that week, he showed back up and was sleeping on our neighbor's porch. The weather was super bad, and my husband went and took him dinner and asked what was up. He said he was just in between places and had somewhere to go after 4 days. My husband, somewhat reluctantly, scared it would become a thing, let him sleep in one of our spare vehicles since it would be very cold and rainy and we were clear it was just for those 4 days, which, like we knew, was a gamble, but honestly, we could not watch him sleeping exposed in that weather, and it was just for a few days. Clearly, in hindsight, a mess up. That was last week. Got home from work today and saw him hanging out with our neighbor and the neighbor's kids. Okay, go inside, change, and I'm cutting up stuff for dinner. Our kitchen windows face our side and backyard. I look up since I see something catch my eye out the window. He's walking through our backyard that only leads to our own backyard, a single woman's backyard, and a family's fenced-in yard. Then he just stood there. My husband saw and quietly came to the kitchen window next to me. After, ex-neighbor left our yard via someone else's backyard. So after he left, my husband went outside and, like, ex-neighbor moved one of our patio chairs into the L-shaped back part of our house and had his coat hung on it. My husband was confused. Went and asked the neighbor's kids if they had talked to him. Apparently, he told them that he's been going to the store every day, the same one, trying to get a tent so he can make a camp in our backyard, and how he will have to get a tarp to go over it too, and likes planning out his hobo camp he's going to try to set up in our backyard. Our backyard is small. Having a camp will take up 1/2 of the yard. We have 2 large dogs, one who greatly enjoys pooping on things, and he has not talked to us since we let him stay in the car, and my husband made it clear it was temporary. Upstairs neighbor is livid with ex-neighbor since ex-neighbor has been hanging out on his steps when he's at work and stuff too. Feel bad for the dude, not gonna lie, but there's a huge homeless camp the next town over
and he refuses to do anything to make his life better, to the point he legit just expects people to let him live off of them, which is why he has never stayed in our house. Really just hope he doesn't, because he's just on so many people's last nerve, and at this point, everyone dislikes him and some people are scared of him. We have places to help people who are homeless in the area, he just keeps trying to live off of the neighborhood though. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let him set up camp in your backyard or not? Please let us know.
I'd probably call the cops on him, to be honest.
I bought this motherboard almost a year ago and only opened it now, so give me my money back. I work cashier customer service in a computer department store, and I'm going about my day when this skinny short guy comes through my line holding a couple motherboards in his hand. He drops them on the counter and says,
I'd like to make an exchange. This motherboard has bent pins.
I'm sorry to hear that. Was it like that out of the box? I said, to which he replies yes. So I go ahead and scan the receipt and search the database for this particular serial number. Lo and behold, this thing was purchased slightly less than a year ago, and only now is he coming back to the store complaining that the pins are bent, claiming he only opened the box just recently. Since the purchase was made so long ago, I'd have to have a manager come and decide if we can take it back. However, I trust S, name of my manager for this tale, and I think he'll be able to help you out. I dial the manager number on my register phone and wait for his arrival. Upon arriving, I explain the situation and then the customer shares his thoughts. His logic was, this was a $200 ITX open box motherboard, sold for $50. It included no I/O shield, cables, or anything else apart from the board. Since the pins were bent, let's go with his story that they came that way. He believed he could return it. Since he purchased a CPU alongside it, the price dropped to $30. This man bought a $200 motherboard for $30 and didn't think, maybe this is too good to be true, or didn't think to look as to why it was so cheap. After all this BS spewed to my manager, both of us quickly realized this was most likely a BS return, with the dude having bent the pins somehow and getting upset about it. After explaining that we can just give him this new motherboard that he picked out, retailing at $70, he gets upset. My manager leaves and he tells me, total incompetence. And from this point, I basically just want this dude to leave, and I'm also making sure he understands that none of what is happening is my fault. He leaves, and the customers next to him look at me with pitiful eyes and sighs of relief alongside me, as I look at them in exhaustion, and they're like, man, that was something, and I call over my next customer. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.